Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening as appropriate, and welcome to the 2003 July 23rd second quarter meeting of the Society for Creative Anachronism. I am Mark Falcon, the chairman of the board, and with me are the other members of the board and the corporate officers, and we will begin the meeting post haste. To that end, I am prepared to accept motions to open the meeting. Director Fisher is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the agenda as presented and take agenda items out of order as may be necessary. Or did you want a motion to open the meeting? Sorry.
We probably should open the meeting first.
I move that we open the July 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Board Society of Creative Anachronism Board of Directors.
There's a motion from Director Fisher. Is there a second? I'm in gallery mode, so somebody please raise their hand in a more direct second from Director.
I will
Redner.
second.
Thank you. All those in favor of opening the meeting and taking items out of order, signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? And noting no abstentions, the meeting is opened. Let's begin by introducing everyone from this side so that everyone knows who we are. As I mentioned, I am Mark Falcon. I am the chair of the board currently. In the society, I am Duke Martin Lochner from the Kingdom of Trimaris. Louise?
Hi, I am Louise Ducray. I am your Vice President for Corporate Operations out here in San Jose, California. And if I seem distracted, I'm also on the back end here running the Zoom.
Stacy?
Hi, I'm Stacy Hall. I'm from the Kingdom of Meridies, and I am the Emergency Replacement Deputy to the Society Seneschal.
Speaking of, Liz?
Hi, I'm Liz Schreier. In the STA, I'm known as Elisette Inindramata. I'm from the Kingdom of Callantyr, and I am the Society Seneschal.
Ross?
Hey, everybody. I'm Ross Regner, but everyone calls me Bart, and I'm Director Seat B, Ombudsman for ANS, Artemisia, Aitenvelt, and Publications. And in the SCA, I'm Count Bart, and I live in Meridies.
Jennifer Smith?
I'm Jennifer Smith. I am the Society Herald, and I live in the Kingdom of Monstiora.
And for reference, for everyone's knowledge, I will occasionally pause to allow the interpreters to catch up. Leslie Luther Fulton?
Hi, I'm Leslie Luther Fulton. I am the Executive Assistant to the Board of Directors. In the Society, I am Countess Jane Fowler of Inglewood, and I live in Glen Aubin.
Jennifer Crockmall?
You're muted.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Krockmal. I sit in seat C on the board. I am the ombudsman for the Kingdoms of Callantyr, North Shield, Outlands, and for IT and Communications Committee. I am known in the society as Kalisa Alexandrovna, and I reside in Atlantia.
Carolyn?
I'm Carolyn Richardson, known as Techiba of Green Lake in the SCA, and I am the corporate treasurer. I live in Kaid.
Nicholas?
Nicholas Milano. I'm known in the SCA as Ian MacArthur, and I reside in the Kingdom of Meridies. I'm the Society Web Minister.
Bonnie?
Hi, I'm Bonnie Stringer. I'm the Society Exchequer. I'm known in society as Marcel Aurelian, and I do live in Glenavon.
Gabrielle.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Fisher. I sit in seat D on the Board of Directors. I am the Ombudsman for Ethelmark, Avacall, Drachenwald, Locock, and Board Recruiting. And in the SCA, I'm known as Adrielle Carrick, and I'm from Eldemire.
Krista.
Hi, my name is Krista Capps. I am the director for Seat A on the Board of Directors. And mundanely, I live in the West Kingdom and known as Brigitte de Gillidaire.
John.
Hi, I am, excuse me. I am John Fulton. I am the president of SCA. In the SCA, I am John the Bear Killer. I live in the Kingdom of Glenavon.
Guys, can we take a break for one moment? We are having one technical difficulty and Sean has requested a break for interpreters.
Excellent. Will do.
All right. I believe we are ready to pick it back up. Mark, if you want to take it away.
Will do. I believe the next person to introduce themselves will be Bridget.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bridget Costello, the Communications Officer. In the SCA, I'm known as Anne Tournay, and I'm coming to you from the wee hours in the wonderful Kingdom of Lockhark.
Thank you, Bridget. Ray.
Hello, I'm Ray Dubos, the Society Marshal. I reside in Onsteora, and in the SCA, I'm known as Count Ray Rebamont.
Thank you, Ray. Ellen.
Hi, yes, I'm Ellen Rossing, and the SCA, I'm Ariella Lindestone. Despite my accent, I reside in England in the Principality of Insulae Draconis in the Kingdom of Drachenwald, where it's just about dinner time.
Thank you, Travis.
And I'm the complete anachronist editor. I probably should have that. Sorry.
Excellent.
Hello, my name is Travis Shank. I am the SCA archivist. In the society, I am known as Ramon de Javier, and I come to you from Artemisia.
Thank you, Charles.
Hello, my name is Charles Burke. I'm the corporate DEIB officer. In the SCA, my name is Charles de Bourbon, and I live in the Kingdom of Ontier.
Thank you. Sam?
My name is Sam Davis. In the SCA, I am Duke Thomas Blackmore, and I live in the Kingdom of Meridies. I am the Information Technology Manager.
Thank you. Sarah?
Hello, I'm Sarah Noble McGee. I'm your Society Minister of Arts and Sciences. In the Society, I'm known as Hildegard Bergerine, and I currently reside in the Kingdom of Atlantia.
Thank you. Katie?
Gilroy. I'm the Marketing and Content Deputy, known in the SCA as Marjorie Heron, and I live in Onsteora.
Thank you. Shep?
I am KT Shepard. I go by the name Shep. I'm the director for Seat F, the ombudsman for Ontier, Onsteora, Glenavon, and Trimaris. I'm also the ombudsman for the Marshallet and the Peerage Committee. In the SCA, I'm known as Ulrich von Brandenburg, and I reside in the Kingdom of Meridies.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Pug?
I'm Pug Bainter. I am the current vice chair in CE. I am ombudsman for East, West, Kaid, DEIB, and the Heralds. I live in Onsteora, and I go by Phelim Jervis.
And thank you very much, sir. Last and certainly not least, Ross.
One more time. I'm Ross Regner. I'm a director, seat A. I'm ombudsman for ANS, Artemisia, and publications. And in the SCA, I'm Count Bart, and I reside in Meridies. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, sir. Just a note or two before we step into the business of the meeting. Want to make sure that all of our attendees know we are not ignoring your questions. We have time at the end of the meeting where we will be taking questions from the audience. But in the interim, of course, we want to get through the business of the meeting in an expeditious fashion. With that, we will move on to item I in the agenda. Gabe?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the agenda as presented and take agenda items out of order as may be necessary.
There is a motion from Director Fisher, a second from Director Shepherd. Point of inquiry, my recollection is there was a item that we added to the meeting last night, and I want to make sure that's on the agenda. It is not.
Mr.
John,
Chair,
go ahead, Ross.
may I suggest we do it under item 5, new business, as item D?
That is exactly my thought, Ross. Gabe, I believe that was your motion to accept the agenda. Would you accept a friendly amendment to add item D under new business?
I do. So I would accept the agenda as amended and take agenda items out of order as may be necessary.
Good. Leslie, do you have the text for item D for what needs to go there?
I have nothing.
Okay.
I do not. I need to know what header you want to use for it.
This would be proposed
selection.
Yeah, proposed corpora amendment : director selection. And do you have the text of the amendment? There was an email last night. Text of the corpora change.
I can pull it up. I was of the impression that Liz was presenting that.
I just want to make sure you have it for the minutes.
Oh, yeah, if it's in an email, I've got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so there's a motion and a second to accept the agenda with a friendly amendment to add item D. Is there any discussion on this motion? There being none, the directors will now vote. All those in favor of accepting the agenda as presented and amended, signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Next item, the approval of minutes. Leslie?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to present the April 23rd, 2023 quarterly meeting minutes, the May 22nd, 2023 conference call meeting minutes, and the June 19th, 2023 conference call meeting minutes for your approval.
Having reviewed the minutes in advance, I found them to be accurate. Unless there is an objection from one of the directors, by consensus, we will accept the approval of minutes as presented. And so ordered. Next item, recurring business, item 3A, status changes.
Sorry, I had a little trouble finding my mute button, Mr. Chairman. We have some group dissolutions which require board action. Only the board can dissolve a group. First one from Onstiora, I have the Canton of Dragons Fire Tour, which is Stephenville, Texas. That group is a canton of the Barony of Elfsea, which is Fort Worth, basically. The group has been dormant for 1.5 years with no activity. The Seneschal has not responded to fairly recent attempts at contact. And of course, the canton will remain part of Elfsea, but the kingdom is requesting that it be dissolved as a canton. So I would ask for the board to move to dissolve the canton.
There's a request from the Society Seneschal, Director Shepherd.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we uphold or grant the dissolution of the Canton of Dragons Fire Tour in Stevensville, Texas, as requested by the Society Seneschal.
Motion from Director Shepherd. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Director Regner. Is there any discussion on this motion? There being none, we will vote. Directors in favor of accepting the motion as presented. That is 6 in favor. Any opposed? Regretfully carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next, I've got from Atlantia, the Shire of Cathanar, which is Craven and Carteret counties in eastern North Carolina. The group has had no activity in over 1 year, with most of the membership reported to have either gone away or started playing with other nearby groups. So the kingdom is requesting its dissolution.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this particular item? Director Fisher.
Mr. Chairman, I move we dissolve the Shire of Cathanar in the Kingdom of Atlantia as requested by the Society Seneschal.
Motion from Director Fisher. Is there a second? Second from Director Bainter. Thank you very much, sir. Is there any discussion on this motion? Good. There being none, we will move to voting. Directors in favor of accepting the motion as presented, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? And this motion carries. And again, regretfully.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next, I have, this one is a little different. In Meridies, the Shire of Andunhania, which is Madison County and Metro Huntsville, Alabama, and the Shire of Glen Ree, which is the Metro Decatur area in Alabama. They voted with no dissent that the two groups want to join as one. Per the Kingdom Seneschal, at one time they were a single group, but they split about 30 years ago. They have decided that it would be best for both groups if they were combined again. That does require that one group be dissolved, and the one that's going to be dissolved is Andunhania. They're going to join Glen Ree. So that's why the kingdom is requesting that the board dissolve Andunhania.
A point of inquiry, Madam Society Seneschal, is there any name changes or other adjustments for the surviving group?
Not that I've been made aware of.
Thank you very much. Director Katz.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the dissolution of the Shire of Andunhania in the Kingdom of Meridies as requested by the Kingdom Seneschal.
As a motion from Director Katz, what I think is actually pretty good pronunciation. Is there a second?
Second.
Better than I would have done anyway. Second from Director Fisher. Is there any discussion on this motion? There being none, we'll move to voting. All directors in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? And this motion carries, and not regretfully. Hopefully they will go on to bigger and better things. Liz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then from the Outlands, I have the College of Schola Metallorum, which perhaps not surprisingly turns out to be the Colorado School of Mines. This college lost their university sponsorship at some point and folded back into the barony of Caerta, within whose boundaries they are. And the kingdom doesn't expect the college to be able to revive itself as an SCA branch. So rather than just leaving it dormant, they would like the board to dissolve it.
Director Crockmall.
Mr. Chairman, with regret, I ask that we accept the Seneschal's recommendation to dissolve the College of Schola Metallorum in the Kingdom of the Outlands.
Motion from Director Crockmall. Is there a second? Director Shepherd. There is a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion on this motion? There being none, we will move to voting. All directors in favor of accepting the motion as presented, please signify by raising your hand. All those against? And this motion carries as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last on that particular list, I have from the Middle Kingdom, the Shire of Oakenshield in southeastern Kentucky. Mid-Realm Seneschal reports that the group already considers itself dissolved, but that does take board action. So they're requesting that the board go ahead and dissolve the Shire.
Director Katz.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the dissolution of the Shire of, lost the name, Berkenshield in the Kingdom of the Middle as suggested by the Kingdom Seneschal.
Director Fisher.
Second.
Thank you. As a motion and a second, is there any discussion on this motion? There being none, we will move to voting. All directors in favor of accepting the motion as presented, please signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? And this motion passes as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving on to a different sort of group action. When a branch becomes newly recognized by its kingdom as official, that doesn't require a board vote. The kingdom can just make it happen, but it does require board recognition so that it can go in the minutes and there's a record. I have happily 2 of these. In Atlantia, we have the Canton of Hawksgate, which is a canton, a new canton of the Barony of Hawkwood. It's located in Western North Carolina, a few counties there, and it was formally recognized by the kingdom on May 20th of this year. Also in the east, the Canton of North Pass, which is a canton of the province of Ostgard, some of the eastern suburbs of New York City, near the Connecticut border. That canton has been reconstituted, and it was declared official by the kingdom on June 3rd. I would ask that the board take note of these newly official branches.
Point of order, Leslie Luther Fulton. I believe I'm correct in saying that we can accept those by consensus. Correct, thank you. By consensus of the board of directors, with that exception from the directors, we happily recognize the status of the new groups.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and that is all I have on that particular agenda item.
Moving to, and thank you very much, by the way, Liz, moving to item C, the quarterly meeting schedule. Louise.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are still looking at an October meeting, which is tentatively still virtual, but we're working on that, of October 22nd, 2023. Our next conference call is set for August 20th, and the second conference call for this quarter in September. The date is TBD as we explore other timing options that work better for everyone.
Thank you. Leslie, does it require a vote for us to establish that meeting, or can we do so by consensus? Okay. By consensus, we take note and establish the October 22nd quarterly meeting and other conference call meetings as presented by the Vice President for Corporate Operations. Um,
The next one's me as well, bank authorizations.
thank you.
All bank authorizations that have come through the corporate office as of midweek have been processed, barring a few emails that bounced that we're working on. So if you've sent a bank authorization through Bonnie, it's gotten to me, it has been processed.
By consensus, the board takes note of that. I think warrants is next, Leslie.
Yes, sir. Warrants have been submitted for the TI editor, the TI art editor, a publication special deputy, and the youth activities officer. Each of these are deputy positions. They fall within the purview of the officer, and I will be submitting those to the board for final approval after this meeting.
Thank you very much. Item F, ongoing projects. One under that is board recruiting, Director Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We currently have 44 nominees on our nominee list, which represents 13 kingdoms. We have 6 kingdoms that are unrepresented on that nominee list, those being Anstiora, Atenveld, Drakenwald, Eldemir, Outlands in the West, just for those who are curious. We're always looking for new nominees. You can nominate yourself or others. We're always in need of different skill sets. If you have any questions, we can always schedule a call with the current director. If you're interested in being a director, but you have some questions on what it involves, just reach out to us and we're happy to schedule a telephone call or a Zoom meeting with one of us and we can answer any questions you have. Many of us are going to be at Penzic. So feel free, for myself, feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to meet with anybody who's interested. If you're on the nominee list, please take a moment to try and find any of us directors or come to the meet and greet on Wednesday at Penzic so that we can put a face to your name.
Excellent. Hand in hand with that, board representation, Leslie.
It is my understanding that there is a meet and greet scheduled for Penzic War. I'm not exactly sure of the date and time. I would suggest that individuals who are interested check the schedule boards once on site for that information. There are discussions going on, my understanding is with Antier as well, for possibly first of the year. And if anyone is interested in holding a meet and greet at their events, please get in touch with me. My email address is ea@sca.org, and I would be glad to talk to them about what would be needed to do such.
Thank you very much, Leslie. We will now move on to item 4, old business. Variance is granted by the Society of Central. Liz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the recent past, this has been a parade of kingdoms needing to change events and whatnot due to COVID and due to reopening things. I don't have any of those this time. The one I have is a little different. In April, the Midrealm approached me about granting a variance so that they could use a concept that it turns out has been used in Drakenwald and Lochak for several years under a board variance, the concept of a hamlet. In the case of the Midrealm, what they want is to be able to use that designation when they have a group that is really struggling. Attendance has fallen off, membership has fallen off. The people have held offices for so long that they're toast. There's a lot of emotional labor that goes on in even trading back and forth simple offices over time, as I know from personal experience, having once lived in a group that fell on hard times. The Midrealm Seneschal feels like this proposal of, she's put some pretty stringent requirements for a group to choose this as it's dissolving as something it can do. They wouldn't hold money. They wouldn't have officers other than a contact person, and they would be attached to another group. They would be become part of a neighboring shire or of a barony, but they could continue to call themselves the hamlet of East, West, whatever, under the sponsorship of the shire or barony of whichever. And they could continue to get together like on weeknights. And if they had a marshal, only if they had an authorized marshal present, they could hold practices as the shire of, or the sponsoring group is holding a practice in the hamlet of whatever. The idea is partly that they could maintain relationships they already may have with places like schools, libraries, etc., who already know them as the group that they are, and they could have a rest period, kind of a time when they could possibly get some more members or get some enthusiasm back and have a little break, but still maintain their group identity, which is valuable to a lot of groups. I contacted Locock and I contacted Drachenwald and asked about how the concept has worked in those kingdoms, because in 2018, the board did grant a variance to those two kingdoms to do this exact thing. I got back from the Kingdom of Locock and the Principality of Insula Draconis, which is the British Isles, pretty extensive information about how they're using the concept, and it seems to have been positive and not caused problems there. I know we discussed this a little at the April planning session and the board had some concerns. It doesn't appear that the groups that are using it have had difficulties with it. So I'm requesting that the board uphold the variance I had given the mid-realm. There was some miscommunication. I thought that I hadn't granted the variance and I looked back and I had. So when the mid-realm posted about it, they were actually acting in good faith. They figured they had my permission, which they did. I just kind of spaced it out among other things. So I want to clarify that for the board. She did put a pause on it after I told her that we'd had a discussion and I wasn't sure that it was going to fly. But I do think this could be beneficial. I don't see that having a variance for this she's got a pretty tight control on it. And I have had interest now expressed from a second kingdom, Artemisia. What they're looking at is the places that are remote, far flung, they can't get to wherever the next nearest group is on a weeknight as a reasonable commute, but they want to still have some cohesion and some SCA identity. One thing that was brought up in Locock and Insula Draconis is that the SCA retains a little control here because households we don't have any control over. People could just get together, but in that case, they can tell people, oh, you can't come. And with anything that's sort of quasi official like this, they have to let whoever's interested come. They can't make it exclusive, at least theoretically. We all know how that works sometimes. So I put forth a pretty extensive report to the board, which I'm sure you all read. I think that it could be supervised, and I think that it's worth a try if it, for, just this kingdom at this time. If Artemisia then later wants to buy into it, they can send their own request. And I would request that the board consider upholding this variance. Thank you.
Director Katz.
Thank you, Liz, for all the work that you've done on this. You answered all the questions that I had about what the hamlet would be. And at this time, I'm ready to make a motion. So,
if you would, Krista, the president has his hand up, and I'd like to hear his perspective before we move to that part.
Absolutely.
John?
Thank you, Mark. So Liz, is there a time limit on this? Is this variance permanent? Is it an experiment? What are the plans toward possibly adding this permanently if it proves useful? Especially, I'm curious about, bank accounts, legal issues, sponsorship of events, which all should be, I think, written down and studied carefully. So what's your plans on this?
Okay, well, to address the bank accounts, events, etc. question, the way the mid-realm has written it up and the way it is working in the two kingdoms who currently use it, they don't get bank accounts. They don't handle money at all. They do not under their own sponsorship, sponsor events. Their host group, they're considered part of a barony or shire. Their group, that barony or shire could certainly hold an event and locate it in the hamlet if they wanted to, because that's, they could certainly do that. But the group itself could not hold an official event just on its own. They would have to work with their main group.
But the meetings are going to be official, sponsored by the holding host group, right?
The way it's presented, yes, they would post it like they would any other shire meeting or barony meeting, and say the barony of whatever is holding, a meeting in the hamlet of whatever the name is.
So you're going
It
to
would
see
be
how
phrased
this,
that way.
you're going to see how this goes then, right?
Yes, at the moment, I'm not asking for anything permanent. I mean, it hasn't been revisited in Locock and Drachenwald since it was done in 2018, but it does seem to be working there. At the moment, I'm not making it permanent. I think Heloise and I had talked about 2 or 3 years, but I mean, that's beyond my time. But yes, at the moment, I'm not planning on making it permanent, but if it were something that worked, then at some point down the road, not yet, the board might consider the corpora change that would add that, but I'm not looking at that yet.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Mark. I'm done.
Director Regner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Liz, I loved the report. It was very extensive, and you laid out some excellent arguments on behalf of granting this variance. While I appreciate the work, I do also feel the need to express some concerns about how this went. And I think you and I've talked a little bit about it too. And so I don't think anything that I'm going to say is a surprise, but I am wary of voting for any kind of variance that is policy crafting by apology, whereby some class or terminology or experiment happens without the express consent of the board. And then on the back end, we have to decide to approve or deny it. I still haven't fully made up my mind of whether or not I'm going to uphold this or not. I really would like to hear from other folks and the directors and see how this conversation plays out. But I think that anytime the SCA engages in an experiment, particularly along the lines of creating new branches or new methods by which an old branch operates, we're creating rules interactions that have possible legal ramifications. And I would want that to always go through the highest level of scrutiny if it's a big deviation from what we're doing. So I think a variance is an excellent tool to deviate from corpora when, for example, a crown can't make it to a crown list because they had a personal emergency. And it's very difficult to lay that policy out in words that is clear and understandable and takes everything into account. So we have a safety release valve. The people in charge, notably you, can create a variance to corpora in an emergency. And then the board, a quarterly meeting, a quarterly body, we get together and we say, well, that was a good call or not. And in this case, it does kind of hit my litmus test for policy crafting as a variance, which I'm wary of setting that precedent. I trust you implicitly. I think you do a great job, and all of your variances throughout COVID have been really smart, well thought out, well defended. And everything here about this variance is really smart, well thought out, well defended. But I don't know what the Society Seneschal will be like in 5, 10, 15 years. And so while I trust you with this power, I am wary of making this by precedent a good way, a normal way for the SCA to operate. I will yield the rest of my time and look forward to further commentary from other officers and directors. Thank you.
I'm going to exercise a point of privilege and recognize Louise.
Hi, we just need 1 minute to swap video for our interpreters, and we do have another interpreter coming. And thanks again, by the way, to Sean Malden from Malden Interpreting, and Wendy, and also Jackie, who we are trying to help come in as well. But if we can just have 1 moment, stand by.
Before we proceed through folks with their hands up, I'd like to give Liz an opportunity to redirect from, because it sounds like there were some questions in there for her.
Thank you. That's actually why I raised my hand. I do want to stress that Bart, your point is well taken. That's my fault for not, I think I had a little discussion with John about this before I went ahead and granted it, but as I said before, I didn't actually realize I had done that. It was kind of in a hectic time, and I said, yeah, go ahead. I think it's fine. There was some communication screw up that was totally my fault on that. Your point is well taken. I will add that there was, when I looked back at what was done in 2018, he did kind of put it in his report as, I can't grant this unless the board says it's okay. And the board did say it was okay. So that probably would have been a better way to handle it. You're not wrong. My apologies for the mix up there. So I guess now I'm asking the board to approve it.
Okay. Strictly speaking, I am next, but I will defer to Director Shepherd and then Director Buckmall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I viewed this, and I get what Bart is, or sorry, what Director Regner is saying, but I also like the way this is crafted. I view this as there is already a precedent set for this, where I could see where it would be something that Liz would look at and say, we've done this before. We can probably do, I don't see a problem. We can't do this again, but I need to run it, through the correct process. Mistakes happen. That's fine. I really like this, Liz. I like what it's working towards. I also like the idea of a hard set on when we when we reassess the experiment and look at it again, even though I understand that will be after your term. Thank you.
Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that a lot of work has gone into this, but I have concerns. First, it is creating a new group or creating a new designation of a group is authority solely reserved for the board. And so I do have concerns that this was granted without actually having the authority to grant it, without having the board approval. So I'm definitely concerned about that, but I think even more so than that, I am concerned about how this works, how it impacts other groups, how the insurance is, it is potentially risky because this new hamlet would only be able to have events sponsored by their group umbrella. Otherwise, they will not be insured. And I think it's confusing, and I think we are going to end up getting into trouble with it as far as liability. So for those reasons, I am opposed to the creation of the designation of hamlet. I yield.
Thank you very much. For my part, I should note, I guess there would also be some operational questions, things around heraldic assets, names, devices, badges, etc. I'm assuming that if we proceed, that could be fleshed out with the Society Herald, or at least specified as to how that would get handled. From a more operational standpoint, I find myself generally thinking along the same lines as Director Shepherd, in that this variance has been granted in the past by the board in other circumstances. And thus far, by the reports we've received from the other affiliate boards and their kingdoms, has worked well thus far. I guess my question to Director Krochmal, Director Regner is, if we were to consider this an experiment and were to direct the Society Seneschal to report back on the efficacy and outcome of the experiment after some period of time, say 2 years or something to that effect, in order to reevaluate whether that's something we would want to continue, would that address your immediate concerns with respect to doing this at the moment? And I will yield my time. Director Regner and then Director Krochmal. Ross, you're on mute.
Yes, absolutely. That would work great for me. I'm working up the language for a motion that could include both granting the variance and set it up as an experiment with a report cadence. I think that would work for me. My main concern is just making sure that we absorb this in a way that keeps the board informed and gives us the opportunity to have a reminder if this is a successful experiment. And indeed, it sounds like it has been in several other places. If this is a successful experiment, rather than making it a part of SCA esoterica, from kingdom to kingdom, well, these kingdoms have hamlets. If it is useful, we should run it as an experiment once more and gather information and report on it quarterly. And then, after some period of time, I would be happy for it to be at Liz's discretion, or her, whoever follows her in her office, put forward some language to the board that says, hey, this worked really well. We'd like to make this a part of how the SCA operates, because there are some really fantastic arguments in your report for doing this way. And I don't want to really lose them, but I do want to make sure that they get the scrutiny that they deserve. So, Mark, Mr. Chair, sorry, I would be happy to do that, and I have language for a motion, if it pleases the board.
I'd like to recognize Director Krochmal before we move to that part.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. I am still opposed. I think that there are still some issues that need to be looked at regarding how events happen, where practices happen, how the insurance is used. And like I said earlier, I understand a lot has been put into trying to create this plan. I'm just not on board yet. I am still focused on the potential risk, and whether our insurance will kick in if they don't have the appropriate sponsors, or how that all works. And so at this point, it does not help me get over my hurdle, but I am one of 7.
Understood. Further questions, comments, or concerns regarding the request from the Society Seneschal? I know at various times both Krista and Ross indicated their preparedness to offer a motion on this.
I'll defer to Ross. His sounds like it was very similar to one of mine. I had a couple all set up, waiting for argument. So,
Director Regner.
In that case, thank you, Director Capps. Mr. Chairman, I move that we uphold the variance granted to the Kingdom of the Middle Kingdom. Kingdom of the Middle, and further instruct the Office of the Society Seneschal to conduct this variance as an ongoing experiment with quarterly reports to the board, to possibly include a recommendation to adopt this variance as a society-wide group designation. And LLF, I'll send that to you via email if it is adopted.
Motion from Director Regner. Is there a second? Second from Director Shepherd. Is there a discussion on this motion? And I will recognize myself. Director Regner, would you consider a friendly amendment to put a time limit on the experiment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I think an appropriate length of time to run the experiment would be 2 to 3 years. Is that acceptable to you as a friendly amendment? 2, 3, what you're thinking?
2.
2. I got 2, I got 3. By informal poll, for the board members who who have an opinion, is there thinking on 2 or 3? Let's see, 2 from Shep, 3 from Krista, 3 from Hug, 2 Gabe. Oh, we're really split down the middle on this then. That being the case, I would tend to err to the side of conservatism on that and go for the 2. Director Capps, your hand was up. Got it. So a friendly amendment to limit the length of the experiment to 2 years. Acceptable, Ross? Good. There is a motion on the floor with a friendly amendment to limit the experiment to 2 years. Is there any further discussion on this motion? There being none, we will move to the voting. All directors in favor of the motion as presented and amended, please signify by raising your hand. All those against? At 5 to 1, that motion carries. Leslie, do you have everything you need for that, for the minutes? Excellent, thank you.
As soon as I get Ross's wording, but I've got the vote.
Good. Ross, can you take care of that in short order? Thank you very much, sir. Liz, you have anything else in new business?
That was the one thing, I believe. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excellent, thank you. Not new, that was variance is granted, excuse me. Before we proceed, I will ask for the directors and officers, considering we're an hour and 20 into the meeting, if a short recess is needed for biological purposes or what have you, by informal poll. If not, we will proceed. Okay. Moving on to item 5, new business. Item A, SCA IT policy. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Information Technology Department of the SCA has been acting under a more tradition of what we do since I've taken over. And I do not believe that's a tenable solution moving forward. I think we have to codify our processes, procedures, and policies to make sure we have them all written down in one place. This IT policy is my first attempt at first draft at trying to get all of what we have been doing codified down in a single place to be able to guide us as we move forward and have a standard set of procedures and policies for the things we do in IT. I would ask that the board review, comment on, and consider approving this IT policy document. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
To clarify, Sam, are you asking we review the document or that we approve it at this time?
I would say that let's review the document at this time. And so that we can make sure that when it is approved, it meets the full needs of this organization moving forward.
Understood. Thank you very much. By consensus, the board accepts the new policy of the new SCA IT policy for review, and we'll work with the Society IT manager to get edits and other commentary back to him in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item B, proposed corpora edition royalty selection. Liz?
My apologies. I had a little trouble getting the mouse and the mute button to communicate. Yes, I am requesting that the board put out for comment a proposed corpora edition. This would be codifying into corpora an interpretation I made that the board upheld earlier this year. The exact corpora would be under 4A royalty selection. There are 3 points currently in corpora on that, and I would like to add a number 4 to read: the Crown may refuse entry into the royal lists as either combatant or consort on an individual basis only for just cause stated in writing to that individual. The board upheld a corpora interpretation I made to that effect in January of this year that stated that while the Crown has a right to bar individuals from entry into the Crown list, they can't bar groups of people based on geography, household affiliation, anything like that, rank, whatever. We've had several recent instances that have required society intervention when Crowns didn't necessarily use that right to bar people particularly judiciously. And as the board upheld the interpretation, I'm not sure there's a good reason not to put out the wording or some version. If the board wants to edit it, that's certainly fine, for commentary. The language I'm proposing also requires a written statement of cause, and I made that language exactly parallel what's already in corpora about certain things that require just cause stated in writing, such as removal of officers or removal of a territorial baronage. So basically, I'm asking the board to put this wording or something similar out for commentary as a proposed corpora change.
Thank you, Liz. As a point of inquiry, is that available on the file drop? I'm looking where I would expect it to be, and I do not see it.
I'm sorry, it is in my report.
Report, thank you. Good enough.
Yeah.
Director Regner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Liz, I think that taking your variances that are not your variances, but taking your interpretations that we've had to make several times and codifying them into a corpora change is excellent. And the way that you've worded it is perfect. I'm very interested to see what our populace has to say about this potential change. I know that there may be some royalists that may not like it, but I think that if you're going to bar somebody from your list, you should at least, so to speak, look them in the eye and tell them why. And so I think this is a really good step in the right direction for our organization, because people being banned and kept out of lists by their crown is such a great point of contention for so many kingdoms, and it can cause a lot of drama. So I think this is a really good way to help hold everybody accountable. And I'm hugely in favor of it. Thank you.
There's a request from the Society Seneschal. Are there any discussion of her request? Leslie, I believe we would need to vote in order to put this out to the membership for commentary. I think I'm correct in that. In that case, I would ask if there are any directors who are minded to make a motion at this particular time. Director Shepherd.
Almost got caught by the mute monster. Mr. Chairman, I request that we accept the Society Seneschal's request for the proposed corpora edition and place that out to commentary by the populace. I think I got that right.
There is a motion from Director Shepherd. Is there a second? Second by Director Regner, who beat out Director Fisher by a hair. There being a motion and a second, is there discussion on this motion? There being none, we will move to voting. All directors in favor of accepting the motion as presented signify by raising your hand. Okay, noted. Any opposed? And that motion passes. Leslie, did you catch all the voting?
I'm sorry, I was making an edit. Was it 6-0?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Next on our agenda, get back to that. Here we go. Item 5C, recruiting and retention, Charles.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Before I get into this, I would like to remind folks that who may not have been here earlier, my camera's broken. That is why I'm not on camera. Otherwise, I would be on. In late 2022, the Board of Directors published a DEI strategy outlining multiple goals for DEIB in the SCA. And then in our last board meeting, approved 6 initiatives moving in the direction of those items. One of those items was to partner with the Society Chatelaine to build training for new members. The following proposal for consideration is intended as a broad retention and recruiting package for public commentary. This is the proposal. This is not the proposed word changes to Corpora. If the board advises, I will move forward with crafting Corpora language for review by the board, then public commentary, and followed by voting by the board. Recruiting and retention are key areas of focus for the SCA, and coming out of COVID, membership and engagement have not returned to pre-COVID levels. Prior to COVID, we were already seeing a decline in paid membership, and COVID exacerbated the problem. We have to focus on retention and recruiting differently than we have in the past in order to stay viable for another half century. To this end, I have several requests, all of which will need to go for public commentary as they are packaged as a single recruiting and retention ask for DEIB and would require changes to Corpora. Item the first, create a society grader officer of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. This role will function like other grader officers with the kingdom officers reporting up to the society DEIB officer. This will require all kingdoms to have a DEIB officer in place. If we can't get to inclusion and belonging game facing in the SCA, then we don't really have much hope in successfully recruiting new members to the SCA from marginalized communities. After being in this office for 5 months, I'm raising this concern now. All kingdom and local DEI and DEIB officers are not on the same page, and some are actually doing it wrong. And they are putting us at some level of liability ranging from brand damaging to legal. Our kingdom and local DEIB officers need to be on the same page and saying the same things. I do not believe that there is any animus in all of this. It is just a lack of top-down strategy in the DEIB office. First, I would like to train our chatelaines to incorporate DEIB into their work, as they're the most impactful from a recruiting perspective. They're our front line. And in the April board meeting, I was tasked with starting to write the handbook for the Society DEIB office and build a work group to begin defining what this would look like to standardize across kingdoms. This authoring work is underway, and the work group is forming. For the Society DEIB office handbook, the author has been identified. Because I am not a technical writer, folks. If you've ever interacted with me, my brain is all over the place. And the content is currently under development. We expect to deliver the first draft for review in the next 2 weeks. The handbook developed by the prior DEI officer is a fantastic start, and I am expanding upon the scope and responsibility required for the Society DEI office. I do not, we are crafting a new handbook using pieces of the old handbook as applicable. And that will, again, as I said, we will have our first draft ready to go within the next couple of weeks. And second item, in order to work in this direction, it is also my fervent wish to see the board elevate the office of Society Chatelaine to a Society Greater Office instead of a deputy to the Society Seneschal. The Kingdom Chatelaines will report up through the Society Chatelaine, and local Chatelaines reporting up to the Kingdom Chatelaines, with all of them taking their strategic direction from the Society Chatelaine. This will allow, much like with the DEIB officers, a single strategy top-down that empowers our Chatelaines to engage in recruiting and retention effectively and in a trained and effective and educated way. their actual organizational strategies for recruiting, and that if we aligned our Shattered Lanes offices under a society greater office and empowered that office to implement society-wide changes, we could then employ those strategically and consistently top down and bottom up to deliver steady increase year over year in members that are retained. And by making these changes in organizations to the Shattered Lanes office, this furthers the board's DEIB strategy for a new member DEIB approach as it empowers the correct people to do this work. The third item, change the scope and possibly the name of the corporate DEIB office to owning strategy and the programmatic support for DEIB recruiting and retention efforts supporting both the society DEIB officer and the society Shattered Lane with broad scale implementations, as well as serving as principal advisor to the board of directors and other corporate offices. This office would own the administration and compliance of things like required training for society, corporate, and kingdom officers by maintaining a corporate learning management system, which is my next point. This office would own implementation of programmatic society-wide DEIB initiatives that are infrastructure-based, like implementing a society way to track and publish site accessibility features, or create and implement mandatory society-wide management training. Finally, approve acquiring a learning management system to house, track, and report out on all corporate training. In the April 2023 board meeting, the board of directors approved mandatory DEIB training for corporate society and kingdom officers, including crowns and territorial princes and princesses. The best mechanism to do this at scale is invest in a learning management system that houses all the training, provides the platform to develop the training in, the tracking to see who has completed it, and the reporting out on performance against those initiatives. Allows us to trend out on learning opportunities and address who may need additional help. With that in mind, I would like to end my request to move forward with crafting this language for Corpora for review in our August planning meeting. And at this time, that concludes my ask.
Thank you very much, Charles. There is a request from the Society DEIB officer. I would open the floor to discussion on this request by the officers and directors. Director Bainter.
President
and then
Fulton,
Director Crockmall.
for the name change of the corporate DEIB, do we need that to go out as a commentary to the populace, or is that something we can do?
The creation and the change and all of that, the board can do. Corporate officers can be created according to our documents. However, my suggestion is at the next meeting, when all of the language has been brought up, give us some time to chew on whether we want to actually make the name change. This is still very new. I don't think the wait while we wait to get all of the decent amount of material that's going to have to be put out for comment, to wait until August to pull the trigger on that creation, because honestly, it's all tied to the society officer creation, as well as to the change for what Charles's job currently is. So I think, Charles, is that okay? I think waiting on that can be the next month of I'm sure, detailed study on all of the things we need to get out for comment to make these changes.
Absolutely. I think that's fine.
Thank you. That's all I have, Pug, is I would wait till we get the whole package ready to be put out and then make the changes on the schedule of the package. I think that would be best.
That's good and logical. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Have the floor.
Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Charles for putting this proposal together. I think that it will do a lot for this organization, will help us to do better recruiting, better retention, and attract more membership of more diverse populations. And I think that this is an amazing step in the right direction. So thank you.
John. John, you're on mute.
Okay, this is now, I now cannot pay my alcohol drink tax I owe to everybody on the mute button thing. I think everyone needs to please consider that this is not just about one segment. We are trying to maintain and grow everything that we do in a much more organized and trained, manner. This is not for this part or that part. This is to get us all to do this better. And honestly, we have needed this in terms of recruitment, training, actual training people to go out. That affects not only every part of DEIB, but every part of what the SA is going to be in the future. So I do not recommend that we limit this to how valuable it can be on any one thing, because I think this is enormously important for us to even exist 5 or 10 years down the line. This is big, and this has been needed for a long while. Thank you.
Other questions, comments, or discussion on the request from the Society DEIB officer? I believe I am correct in saying that since it is not Charles's request nor his goal to publish language for commentary to the populace, nor to make organizational changes within the corporate office at this time, that it would be sufficient if we are minded to do so to direct Charles to begin fleshing out the implementation plan as he has described it, up to and including drafting said language. And of course, we would need to get in, much further into the operational details of how that would work, et cetera. Without objection from the directors, I think that is the direction that we will push the discussion at this particular moment. That being the case, the breadth and scope of what Charles is asking for is sufficiently large that I would prefer not to do things by consensus unless it is crystal clear that we are all in lockstep and pointed in the same direction on this particular item. To that end, I would ask that unless there's a director who objects, that we will ask Charles to do what I just described by vote, given its breadth and scope. Are there any directors who object to that? Okay, Ross, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that we take note of, accept, and endorse the recommendations of our DEIB officer. Does that work?
There is a motion for Director Regner and a second from Director Krochmal. Discussion on this motion. For myself, with respect to Charles, I would prefer not to use the word endorse until we have delved further into the operational issues and seen more language. I can certainly endorse the direction, but I don't want to endorse an outcome until I know what it is.
I'll accept that amendment as friendly and remove
I
the
would
word endorse.
Gotcha. I would also like to add some language to direct Charles to do the work as described. In other words, to draft the implementation plan up to and including draft report language, et cetera.
I'm happy to accept that as friendly amendment as well, as long as Leslie isn't mad at me. For do you have it? Do you have it, Leslie?
I would like, Mr. Chairman, if you would repeat your portion.
Certainly. The first portion would be to strike the word endorse. The second would be something to the effect of, and to direct the society DEIB officer to begin work on an implementation plan for his request, up to and including drafting corpora language for commentary to the populace, or to the membership, excuse me.
I'm
And
sorry, are we waiting on me?
I'm waiting to make sure Leslie has everything.
Got it, sorry.
She had to transcribe on the fly.
Yes, I'm sorry. What I'm hearing, I may clean it up a little bit, but what I'm hearing is a motion by Mr. Regner to take note and accept the recommendations of the DEIB officer and to direct the DEIB officer to begin work on an implementation plan up to and including drafting corpora language for presentation to the membership for commentary.
That's exactly what I said. That's
All right.
word for word.
Yeah.
All right.
And seconded by Director Crockmall.
Okay.
Okay. So motion on the floor as presented. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Okay. There being none, we will move to voting. All directors in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by raising your hand. Leslie, please note I am exercising my option to do so and voting in favor. All those opposed? And there being no abstention, that motion carries.
Thank you all. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Leslie, do you have everything you need? Okay, thank you. Moving to item 5D, the corpora change for director selection. Liz, do you have that handy?
If you give me a minute or two, I can find it. Sorry, wasn't quite expecting that, but I can find it.
Yeah, when we worked on this, Mark, last night, we had never decided or knew who to actually present this, worked on the language.
Actually, let me make sure I have said language, and I will be happy to do it myself.
Okay, if you don't, I do have it now.
Yeah, I have it now. What we will be proposing to the membership for commentary is an amendment to corpora item chapter E item, or directors are elected by unanimous vote of the board. Change to directors are elected by a unanimous save one vote of the board. Liz?
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Chair, this is the bylaws, not corpora
Bylaws,
specifically.
excuse me. This one is the bylaws. Thank you. Secondarily, under 2, filling vacancies, item reads, all vacancies may be filled by a unanimous vote of the directors then in office, whether or not their numbers constitute a quorum. I'm sorry? Excuse me. That would change to all vacancies may be filled by a unanimous vote, save one of the directors then in office, whether or not their numbers constitute a quorum. That is the motion on the floor to publish that for commentary to the membership. Is there a second? Seconded by Director Bainter. Discussion on this item. Director Crockmall.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, I think that this is also another step in the right direction. It limits the individual power of each individual director and makes one, not able to make decisions on behalf of everybody. And so I do like that this sort of, it gives us the ability to have one dissent when we are hiring or selecting a board member. And that allows for a wider variation and representation. So thank you.
I will also note for the populace who may be hearing this or view it in the future, that having done a granted comparatively small amount of research into other 501c nonprofit organizations, this would also bring us more in line with common practice amongst organizations of our type. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and also just to be very clear, this does not alter the number it takes for directors to approve changes to corpora, the bylaws, the articles of incorporation. It is strictly limited to what it takes to put somebody on the board. Now it is unanimous. This means it could be unanimous -1, which I think is a very common sense thing from an officer standpoint to do. Thank you.
Leslie?
I just need to clarify, you had a motion and a second.
Motion by me, second by Director Bainter.
Oh, you made the motion. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Had to happen eventually. Is there further discussion of this motion? Jennifer, is your hand up? You're
Yes.
recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very, very quickly, I just wanted to add that this does require a unanimous vote from the board in order to approve putting this out for commentary.
Noted.
Thank you.
John? John, you're on mute.
Nobody wants me off of mute when I'm not talking. Well, actually, people probably want me on mute when I am talking. So just, I am curious, this is a proposal to go out. It doesn't take a unanimous to put a proposal out. It's not, you are not voting on this change. You are just putting it out to get comment. When it comes up to actually change the bylaws, you will need to be unanimous. But this is just, I mean, this isn't really changing anything yet. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on the motion as presented? There being none, we will move to voting. All directors in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by raising your hand. And we will note also for this motion, I exercised my option to do so and voted in favor. All those opposed? And there being no abstentions, that motion passes. All right. At this point, we are just shy of 2 hours into the meeting. I will now ask again to the directors and officers if a short recess is in order for to answer other needs. I see thumbs up from Director Capps and from Director Bainter. Is 5 minutes sufficient, or would 10 be more appropriate? There's a banner across your face, so I can't see what your 5 minutes. Thank you. It is currently 2:50 Eastern, 11:50 Pacific, and times in between. We will stand in recess and resume at in 5 minutes at 2:55 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, thank you so much for allowing for a quick break. Dr. Bruce and Wendy, are you two good to go going forward for the rest of the meeting? I can't hear Dr. Bruce or Wendy. Are you two good to go for the rest of the meeting?
I apologize. Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, I guess if you two are able to pin each other, then you'll see each other better when it's time to switch. Otherwise, we don't have access to switch between you two. We don't have any co-host privileges on this call. I want to apologize to SCA for all of the confusion that, it took us for so long to get our interpreters on. We're glad we're able to provide services consistently nonetheless. And we have with us Dr. Bruce, and we have Wendy, who will be taking over the rest of the call.
Thank you so much, Sean, Dr. Bruce, Wendy. As I mentioned, we are very new to using Zoom as well. So we're really happy that you guys are here, and let us know if you need anything. I can switch between hosts if needed. And yes, thanks for everything.
Thank you. We'll see you back in a few minutes.
Thank you.
At this time, we will resume the meeting and proceed to the next item on the list, which is item 6, reports, starting with item A, the report of the president.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a July 2023 quarterly report for the Office of the President of SCA Inc. Requested board actions. I had one, it was a warrant extension for one of the officers that will show up later in the announcements. No policy interpretations, no new policy. Commendations, I would like to thank Ray Dubose, Sir Ray Rumont, for his work as Society Marshal. Ray took over the office as the world and our society were in the onset of the epidemic. The last 3 years have been a difficult time for everybody, and Ray dealt with many issues that will be taxing for any officer under normal circumstances. Your service is appreciated, Ray. Special thanks also to Charlotte Dubose, Countess Muriel Dubois, who worked with the Society's Marshal's Office as Special Projects Deputy. Charlotte helped the Society Marshal in reporting in most aspects of the office. Thank you, Charlotte, for your service also. Publishable summary, the Amazon Smile Foundation has ceased all donating to organizations on June 23rd, 2023. The foundation has been donating to charities and not-for-profits for the last 10 or so years, has been generous to the SCA's, to the Society's general fund. The final donation to the SCA was received on June 8th, 2023 in the amount of $2,591.89. I have sent a thank you to Amazon for their donations. Applications for the Society Marshal have been closed. Interviews have been done, and we will hear something soon from the board about who they have chosen to take over Ray's position, which his warrant ends at the end of August of this year. Testing is starting of the new SCA online registration event system, SCORES. SCORES will allow groups to register their events and have attendees reserved for these events online once the testing is completed. This will be available to all SCA kingdoms. The board has requested commentaries on a proposed corporate policy investment authority delegation. This will give more authority to the Society Treasurer regarding investment of the SCA's institutional funds and portfolio. I urge everyone to go to the link on the website and take a look at the policy and give their comments. The commentary closes September 15th, 2023. The SCA corporate DEIB officer is looking for deputies for future initiatives. Since this was written before the Charles's report, that's been greatly changed. Again, I urge everybody to go to the SCA.org news/deputies wanted. That'll give some more information about the DEIB office. The Society's 2022 year-end report was released on May 27, 2023. That is, again, on the SCA website. Katie Gilroy, the Corporate Communications Marketing Deputy, organized and produced that report. It contains a great deal of information about the SCA in 2022, including financial information and other important subjects. Again, go to news and events at the SCA.org website. Click on news and events, and you can scroll through and find just about everything I've mentioned here. At some point during 2023, SCA Inc., and this has been changed, this is still a very fluid situation, we'll announce some type of change in membership, including price, possibly involving the non-member registration costs for events. It's been over 10 years since the last membership increase has been done, and well over a dozen plus years since the non-member registration fee was raised. These increases will probably not come into effect until at least 2024. Probably can't make any promises now because this is still being discussed. Insurance and many other costs, as well as inflation, continue to rise as our budgeting, especially over the 3 COVID years, has been carefully controlled. So we will have an announcement on what the plans are. Again, all of this is still in the heavy discussion phase. I have no travel at this time, possibly Penzic, and that concludes my report. Mark, as chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, and much appreciated. By consensus, we accept your report and take note. Next would be the report of the Society IT manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greetings unto the esteemed directors of the Society for Creative Anachronism, the manager of Information Technology. Herein follows the second quarter of 2023 board report to the Board of Directors regarding the activities of the Department of Information Technology for the board's July 16, 2023 meeting. Requested board actions is none. Requested policy interpretations, none. New policies, this was already covered in new business, but please review, advise, and if found acceptable, adopt the SCA Information Technology Policies document. Commendations to Louise Ducray for all her hard work and tireless efforts on getting the new membership portal up and running. Louis Tanzos, Russ Smith, and Hunter Itzen for their considerable work on migrating to the new server. Marla Lesson for putting up with double job duties while we migrate to the new server. General status report. This quarter has been a busy one for IT staff. The IT department has submitted a comprehensive set of IT policies. These policies formalize the existing practices of the IT department has operated under for a number of years. They also address some of the significant holes in our guidelines and procedures. Operating without guiding policies can be dangerous to the organization. The migration to the new server has hit a few speed bumps, but proceeds fitfully. We have migrated the first website, the Known World Herodic and Scribal Symposium website, to the new server following the completion of the event this year. This is an important milestone. At the time of writing, the main SCA website and most of the heraldry related websites are scheduled to move next week. The goal is to have everything migrated by July 15th with an eye to shut down the old server by the end of July. As an update after the writing of this report, everything has now moved to the new server with the exception of the listservs. We are waiting, we've hit another speed bump with that, but we are still planning on shutting down the server by the end of July, the old server by the end of July. In the meantime, any updates to the website were being done both on the old and new server. After the migration to the new server is complete, the web team will be able to, will start the process of posting 100 historical IRS 990 forms for membership availability. Several updates were made to properly forward SCA.org based websites to their new homes. Example include enewsletter.sca.org and members.sca.org now point to their homes with the Neon CRM. Section F, publishable summary. The IT department has been busy this quarter. The migration to the new server has dominated our efforts. While we have hit roadblocks, we have made progress. The current goal is to complete the migration by July 15th. The web team is working hard to keep the website up and updated during this migration period. Additionally, the IT team has submitted a set of policies to formalize and guide the actions of information technology personnel throughout the SCA. Respectfully and farewell, Sam Davis, Manager of Information Technologies, SCAE. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield my time.
Thank you very much, Sam. By consensus, your report is accepted by the board. Moving to Society Communications Officer, Bridget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This report will handle both the social media and the communications functions. So I have no new requested board actions for this quarter or policy interpretations or new policy. I do have, however, a large number of commendations. So social media administrators and moderators throughout the known world for their vigilance, their compassion, their willingness of the society's core values as outlined in Kapora. This is particularly relevant following a challenging May for many administrators. The Barony of Forgotten Sea is rocking it with their TikTok and Facebook Reels. They are currently at 22,000 followers on their page. The West Kingdom social media team for their care and compassion following the unexpected loss of their king. They held space for the kingdom to share stories and grieve while also looking after themselves. The West Kingdom team has also seen their hard work promoting the SCA to new audiences over the last year and a half create substantial changes in their user demographics. 43% of their Meta, Facebook and Instagram participants are aged 44 and under, and 79% of their TikTok followers are aged 18 to 34. Athelmark's social media has been made into a Kingdom Greater Office. This is the result of hard work and partnerships across the Kingdom Officer cohort for their kingdom. The Kingdom of Trimaris's Discord team, it continues to go from strength to strength. The Kingdom of Eaglemere's social media team, which supported the Niagara Falls Comic Con, seeing an increase of members on their Facebook page and Discord. Mistress Miriam Bat-Shimon, whose work is seeing great growth for the Lockhart TikTok account, as well as constantly sharing public-facing content, which showcases her kingdom. The Glenarban Crown List team did an amazing job. This was Dame Christine O'Neill of Cork, also known as Dame Dot on video, and Baroness Raven with the Kingdom Social Media Officer, Rosalind Bint Miramar. Season 1 of IUP, the Glenarban podcast, has also completed a successful first season, and I apologise if I mispronounced that in a Lockhart accent. My thanks, as always, to absolutely my right-hand woman, Katie, but also to John, Louise, Marla, Leslie, Liz, Eben, Maya, and Sam, and all the amazing content creators across the known world who continue to communicate the benefits and opportunities inherent in our community. Moving to general status, Q2 proved a very busy quarter with a range of matters, meaning that some deadlines have pushed back to Q3, as well as some additional factors. We had a slight delay in the release of the merchandise store, with a launch now anticipated for Q3. And in fact, I can say that merchandise store will be launching today. This was a result of the original platform we had selected, making it significantly less attractive for sales. We have now found a better platform. Pride was recognised with a range of educational posts on society social channels that reflected the diversity of history. Around the known world, we heard overwhelming support and celebration for the Society's celebration of Pride. Initial officer blogs were published. These will continue to be published throughout the year, highlighting the efforts of what is happening in various offices. The Society's first annual report was published. We provided support to the corporate DEIB office, and we continue to support the positive impacts of the strong outreach approach being taken by that office. Work is beginning on the Society's first official podcast. We are looking forward to reporting more progress in Q3. The proposed restructure of the communications function for SCA Inc. is currently in progress and will be presented to the board for approval in early Q3. And I am intending to open applications for the Deputy Communications Social Media Officer in August 2023. Moving to publishable summary, effective communication creates trust and builds understanding. In 2023, the communications team will continue to work with officers and participants around the known world to build the understanding of the mechanics of our organisation, realise our opportunities to improve it, and continue to learn and grow. We thank everyone who has provided feedback and assistance with the improvements that have been made so far, and also those we will make in the future. My thanks to all the officers and participants who support this function around the globe. I have no confirmed travel plans at present, currently investigating some options. And then once we have restructured the communications functions, we will look at content creation related budget proposals with the President and Treasurer. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Bridget. By consensus, your report is happily accepted. At this time, we will return to the Society Web Minister. Nick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The esteemed directors of the Society of Creative Anachronism, Society Web Minister gives his report following the second quarter 2023. Requested board actions, there are none. There are no policy interpretations requested. There are no new policies at this time. I have no commendations this quarter. The general status report is at this time, we have 11 kingdoms reporting and 9 non-reporting kingdoms. All kingdom web ministers are working on data policies for our last quarterly meeting. We did not have a second quarter meeting, but look to have one this coming few months for the third quarter. Primaris and Outlands have new web ministers stepping up, and Callantyre will have new web minister at the end of July. Onstiora has requested to extend their warrant. The how-to project for best practices is moving forward slowly. Regular life has been fairly busy these last few months for us all. I suspect at the end of school terms and prepping for summer vacations, work has slowed a bit. Reports from several kingdoms show lack of officers for web minister positions and some deactivating of local groups, likely from contraction from the pandemic. However, commentary suggests that the offices themselves are moving forward and looking for solutions to make things more manageable for local groups in the event there isn't someone to take the mantle of local web minister. Publishable summary, the Office of the Web Minister is doing well. There are no major problems to report, and I suspect the last 2 quarters of 2023 to be more robust. With several kingdoms reporting changes of office, I believe we will have more projects to report on in the near future. Respectfully, Nicholas Milano, Web Minister, SCA. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Your report is also gratefully accepted. I believe that brings us to item 4 under the President, Society DIB Officer, Charles.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And at this time, this is the report for the corporate DEIB officer. We already know what my new requested items are, so we will be moving past that to commendations. First of all, I would love to offer commendation to our society comms officer. Bridget has been incredible, such an incredible person to work with, and my commendation was fully echoing hers regarding all of the work that the social media officers have put in over the last quarter. It's been incredible, and that entire team, they're all heroes to me. General status report. Our daily DEIB learnings were published every other day and have reached 25,552 people. This is a 292% increase from the prior 3 months. We saw a 40% increase in page engagement with the SCA DEIB page. We had 198 new page likes, which was down significantly from the prior quarter, but that is specifically upon review on March 10th. I published that I would be posting regular updates on the DEIB page, and that message was shared 50 times with almost 100 new page likes in that one day. So once we move that anomaly from the analysis, we are still growing month over month. Work has begun on the new initiatives approved by the board, training development for officers. As John mentioned, I published jobs for deputies to assist in delivering this. Interviews have begun. This was written in July. The interviews have now ended, and final candidates are being decided on. Curriculum content identification has also commenced based on analysis currently underway. of learning gaps and learning needs. Second item, publishing accessibility features and accessibility challenges on all SCA sites used for events. The job posting for a deputy to help deliver on special projects has been posted. Interviews like the prior one are completing now, and I am moving to final candidates. Next item, partnering with Chatelain's office to develop newcomer training. I believe I have covered that in largely in my new items. But updates, ongoing items. We are in partnership with the Chatelain's office and I'm running an entire DEIB track at the Known World Chatelain Symposium, available to all Chatelains. Secondly, Society Chatelain and the corporate DEIB office are kicking off an interview series where we interview landed nobles who are experiencing membership growth by leaning into DEIB in their recruiting and retention practices. And finally, build work group on DEIB officer handbook to standardize the office across kingdoms and define what a society DEIB office would do versus a corporate DEIB office. The authors have been identified. We are in process of gathering notes from the working group that is currently forming on the standardization of the officer handbook. And the society DEIB officer handbook is almost complete. For its first draft is almost complete. Finally, I appeared on Voices of Color to discuss new initiatives that we are working on in the DEIB office. I've consulted with many officers and royals at all levels in the SCA on DEIB issues. I filled in as teacher at Atlantean University, where I taught corporate DEIB 101 class. And the request for proposal for external consultants was reviewed and approved by the board, and it is already been sent to many vendors. I've received a few inquiries or responses, mostly looking for additional information. We are rather a unique organization looking for requesting this type of consultancy, and the ones who have responded have been pretty intrigued and very interested in working with us. Finally, the hate has no place in the SCA imagery has taken off, largely due to our posting it on our page, and we are seeing signs and belt tokens showing up all over the SCA. To date, it's been our best performing post, having reached 9,000 people, spawned its own page, and from conversations that have an engagement on the Society DEIB page, a Pride Garb Challenge Facebook group launched with an unofficial group launched with, it's now 1,500 members that are very engaged in supporting each other. My publishable summary is exactly the same as what I just went over. Mr. Chairman, I relinquish the remainder of my time.
Thank you, Charles. And by consensus, your report is also gratefully accepted. Moving to item B for the Vice President of Operations, i.e. the Society Seneschal. Liz, you are up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My two requested board actions were already dealt with. The variance request and the putting out for corpora comment, the corpora change about ground tournaments. Sorry, let me go on. I have no new policy interpretations this quarter. I have no new policies this quarter. Group status changes were dealt with earlier. I do have commendations. Christine Bishop, Mistress Christine Wayode, stepped down in May as the Outlands Kingdom Seneschal. Christine assumed the office on short notice and without much training during the pandemic shutdown, and led her kingdom through that difficult time, including the SCA's reopening and all of the confusing and rapid rule changes that occurred due to that in 2021 and 2022. She deserves a rest. Melina Chesley, Countess Christiana Vyakoslavova, something Russian. I'm sure I've absolutely mutilated that. Completed a term as the Eldermere Kingdom Seneschal, which began with the SCA's reopening after COVID. As the laws and restrictions in Ontario were rather different than the US, Melina had to navigate her kingdom's legal requirements and sometimes educate her society superior on those differences. Through all of this, she showed grace and good humor and kept her kingdom on an even keel as post-pandemic activity resumed. She also deserves a rest. And I also want to mention tardily the Kingdom Seneschals of Glenaban and Onsteora, Kendra Devon and Robin Bainter, who dealt with some interesting situations at that war. Large SCA events aren't always a vacation for the legal representatives of the principal and host kingdoms. Their efforts are appreciated, as are those of the Glenaban Emergency Deputy, Alex Colas, who stepped in when Kendra had to be off-site due to her modern job. I also have finally, I want to mention the Society Youth Activities Officer, Mickey Santee, her ladyship Amethyst de la Fontaine. Mickey has jumped into a brand new position that had a somewhat vague wish list from me and is actively and enthusiastically working to make my partially shaped vision for the office begin to see reality. Her work is much appreciated. From the Kingdom Seneschals, I have a few commendations. On Steora, I would like to give thanks to Lady Ithune Arner's daughter, the Seneschal of the Shire of Shadowlands, as she very politely diffused a potentially volatile situation concerning the theme of their group's upcoming event. I would like to give special thanks to the Barony of the Steppes for their grand efforts in recruiting and retention. From the Seneschal of Atlantia, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to Duchess Marie Simone de Barjavel-La-Fildena, who has served Atlantia at least twice as Kingdom Seneschal, her most recent time during the COVID-19 pandemic, when she expertly worked hard to keep the kingdom safe and functioning. After stepping down last May when I stepped up, she served as my emergency deputy, offering me her guidance and wisdom as I assumed the role of Kingdom Seneschal. I could not have done it without her, and I value her counsel and her friendship. She is what all Atlanteans should aspire to be. From the Seneschal of the East, Maeve Ingenui Kelly has been a fantastic support in my first year as East Kingdom Seneschal. I am pleased to announce she gets to breathe for real and step down as the emergency deputy seneschal for the kingdom. She will be a resource going forward and work on occasional special projects. I look forward to seeing what she gets to put her focus on. I am eternally grateful for her ongoing friendship and guidance. From the Kingdom Seneschal of Lochak, I need to call attention to the kingdom deputies who make my job possible. Without the help of reporting, masonry team, my deputy, crown events, and social media deputies, I could not begin to tackle this work. And finally, from North Shield, I want to in particular compliment Lady Murren Bollock for her steadfast commitment to her shire. I also want to compliment the ever articulate Baron, I'm going to mutilate this one, Vasily Boleslav Krakowa, where he was part of a news spot on the local Fox News about the SCA and represented the society excellently. With him, two well-respected members opened up their home to news crews and gave a wonderful taste of the SCA as a lifestyle. Thank you, Duke Vladimir Radescu and Duchess Petronilla Fitz-Allen of Weston. Moving from commendations, travel. I attended a mid-realm event, Grand Tournament of the Dragon, at the end of April for the happy occasion of the knighting of my husband's squire, who's also a dear friend. I've also attended Lily's War this quarter, naturally, since it is my own kingdom's signature event. And I plan to attend Penzic War for the entire 2 weeks and am likely also going to Great Western War in Caid this fall. All of this I anticipate being on my own nickel. I go to Penzic anyway. If people are interested in talking about what this job entails or anything else, you can find me camping with Callantyre. My publishable summary. First, I have an erratum. In April, I submitted a variance, which the board decided not to uphold. In the variance, I referred to the Baroness of Bright Hills as requiring the variance to serve as a kingdom officer while also being a landed baroness. I've been informed that I got my Atlantean baronies confused, and the barony in question was actually Marinus. And I want to note that correction here. This quarter, a new guide for Kingdom Seneschals doing sanction paperwork was completed, and the Seneschals were trained on its use. This should hopefully make it easier for them to file correct and timely paperwork when Kingdom sanctions are necessary, as they unfortunately are from time to time. On a brighter note, this spring, finally, most kingdoms are reporting that event attendance and general SCA participation are looking similar to pre-COVID levels. This seems to be reflected in the fact that the corporate office I know has been fielding many more requests for insurance certificates and similar event-related items than they previously were. I see evidence and hear reports that quite a few newcomers are showing up, initially attracted by the online presence, both official and unofficial, of SCA content during the pandemic. Now they're excited to check us out in person. I saw evidence of this with my own eyes at that recent event in the Middle Kingdom, where the Crown handed out newcomer mugs to at least 20 people who were attending their first royal court. That's pretty amazing. We need to make the effort to continue that strong online presence, which is clearly paying off, and to be welcoming to these new participants to make sure their in-person experiences are as positive as their online impressions. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of an event and the comfortable feeling of being among old friends, and I am absolutely guilty of that when I go to events. But newcomers are vital to the society's health, and they can bring back an old magic by the gift of seeing the society anew through their fresh eyes. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my publishable summary and my report.
Thank you very much, Liz. By consensus, your report is also accepted. I may have lost track of it there, but did you also cover society shadowing, or do we have that report as well?
I have reports from the Society Chatelaine and the youth officer. I'm ready to cover those because I don't believe they are here.
Please proceed.
Okay, from the Society Chatelaine, Michelle Hayes, Her Excellency Jean-Marie Laverriere. She has no requested board actions, no policy interpretations, no new policies. She does have a couple of commendations. She says, I would like to commend Master Fergus de Botha, OP of Aytenveld, as he is leading the charge for the eagerly anticipated Known World Chatelaine Symposium, which will be held on December 30th, 2023 via Zoom. Master Fergus has been a joy to work with and is incredibly motivated about this event. He and the members on his team are working especially hard to be as inclusive as possible and have been working with the Society DEIB officer, Master Charles de Bourbon, to ensure that it will be the best event it can be for all chatelaines and hospitallers across the known world. I would also like to commend my predecessor, Megan Ladd, as she continues with her work heading up the newcomers point at Penzic. Despite dealing with personal concerns, she continues these efforts because she loves to welcome newcomers to the SDA. She has no travel required for the last quarter. Her publishable summary states, the Office of the Chatelaine continues full steam ahead as we continue with the summer months. The chatelaines and hospitallers of the SCA are on the move as we gear up for Lily's, Penzic, and other exciting large events. As you pack for these exciting events, please remember to reach out to new members in your groups and welcome them home and introduce them to your local newcomer officers. Let's have a great summer. And that concludes her report. And the Society Youth Activities Officer, also Michelle, Mickey Santee, Her Ladyship Amethyst de la Fontaine. Again, requested board actions, none. Policy interpretations, none. New policies, none. No commendations. Publishable summary, let me scroll down to that. Publishable travel, none. Publishable summary. I do know she was at Gulf Wars. I will mention that. Publishable summary. Youth officers all over the society are meeting and discussing the needs of SCA families. We are compiling resources and information not only for youth officers, but for parents and teens. This information will soon be available on the SCA website. And that concludes her report.
Thank you, Liz. Their reports are also accepted by consensus. Here. I believe that would bring us to item C, Vice President for Corporate Operations, Louise.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the report for Q2 for the corporate office. So I have no board actions, policy interpretations, or new policies. Commendations, million thanks are due to Carolyn Richardson, Natalia Yarosevich, Bonnie Stringer, and everyone involved in migrating our corporate QuickBooks and subsequently getting our financial reporting up to date. And I will also note that writing the commendations for these reports is the most difficult part because I want to commend everyone every quarter. I sometimes try and see, who did I commend last time? I guess I just won't commend them this time. But honestly, everybody's doing such a wonderful job. It's hard to choose. But the finances this quarter, they were a bear. General status report. This was another busy quarter. Fun fact, we have processed more insurance certificates requests as of mid-June than were processed in the entirety of 2022 or any of the preceding 3 years. And as our Society Seneschal notes, this does show a massive and heartening increase in in-person events. Also, we are just about done updating and streamlining the system for ordering insurance to ensure a much quicker turnaround and less headache all around. So we do thank you for your patience with that. In May, we upgraded and migrated the corporate office QuickBooks thanks to a subscription provided through TechSoup, which is the Microsoft Tech Grant Program that our IT manager, Sam Davis, savvily signed us up for last year. And as a bonus, this much needed system upgrade represents a savings of over $2,000 annually. As of late June, members now have the opportunity to access their membership cards electronically. These digital membership cards provide a more efficient and convenient way to carry your membership information with you to events. They update automatically when you renew your membership or update your information. There's no need to download a separate app. They're installed directly into the existing wallet app on your smartphone, and once downloaded, they do not require internet to access. You also have the option to print a physical copy at any time, as well as the ability to easily share family cards between devices. So any existing members should have already received an email containing your card. Going forward, new members should be receiving their cards within about 72 hours, and any updates that you make will happen usually within 24 hours. If you have any questions about that, you can always contact us at membership@sca.org. And of course, membership details will continue to be accessible in a variety of ways. We are continuing to print and mail blue membership cards. You can select that option from the drop-down menu when you're renewing, or you can also request one when you log into the portal, or you can simply call or email us. We did send out a huge batch last week, and they should all be on their way to you before Pensic. And as always, please reach out to us at membership@sca.org if you have questions or need assistance with your membership, at insurance@sca.org for insurance questions and certificate requests. And for background check matters, you can contact background checks, all one word, at sca.org for your Kingdom Seneschal. And this concludes the corporate ops report.
Excellent, thank you. And that report is gratefully accepted. The publications manager, Gloria is Louise, are you doing that? Is Gloria here?
I don't believe Gloria is here. I will also be presenting Gloria's report.
Thank you.
So here follows the report for the second quarter for the publications manager, Gloria Woodard, known in society as Honor of Restormel. Requested board actions. These have already been provided. Please sign the warrants for Special Projects Editor Teresa Crane, Tournaments Illuminated Editor Darcy O'Neill, and Tournaments Illuminated Art Director Jennifer Heiza. Policy interpretations, none. New policies, none. Commendations, thanks and commendations to all of the Kingdom Chroniclers who submitted nominations for the Black Fox Awards and to all of the nominees. We appreciate their hard work and willingness to share their creative talents with the known world. A special thanks to Teresa Crane, Lady Teresa of Kahir, for her work editing special projects. General status report, the publications team continues to provide quality publications for the populace. Publishable summary, the publications team continues to provide monthly newsletters, a quarterly magazine, Tournaments Illuminated, and a quarterly scholastic journal, Complete Anachronist. If you have any articles or artwork to enrich these publications, please reach out to the editors. Please note that there has been a change to the email address for digital newsletters to be archived. Please send newsletter submissions to digitalarchivist@sca.org, and inquiries and administrative issues go to, I'm going to spell this one, DAOUD-AL-BODMANI@outlook.com. That's Daoud al-Bodmani at outlook.com. Please encourage your local chroniclers to include the digital archivist in their distribution of the newsletters. And that is the publications report.
Excellent, thank you. And that report is also gratefully accepted. The Tournaments Illuminated report, Darcy or Louise?
I don't believe we have Darcy, so I'm up next. One moment.
Thank you.
Here is the report for the Office of the Tournaments Illuminated editor, presented by Darcy O'Neill, known in society as Riordan McGregor. No board actions, policy interpretations, or policies. Commendations. As always, I want to express my appreciation to TI staff, Kingdom liaisons, contributors, and supporters, without whom the magazine would not exist as we know it. I am also grateful to the other members of the SCA Publications team who have been and are so very supportive. General status report, issue 220 is going to press. An issue dating adjustment may be required in the process of returning TI to its regular production schedule. Submissions to or questions about Quest topics are welcome and should be sent to the editor at tieditor@sca, that's where we work, .org. And that concludes the TI report.
Thank you. And by consensus, that report is also gratefully accepted. Complete Anachronist.
That is Ellen, who we do have.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm here. I can't start my video, but I am here. Okay, so commendations for me. See if I can, nope, won't start it. Okay. Commendations for me, once again, go to, thanks go to Matthew Parker. He wrote CA 199 and he's written CA 200. This one, CA 200, Complete Anachronist 200, is part 2 of his, and this is all in Latin. I'll give you the English translation. This is to the signers, so wait for the English translation. The Latin title is De Commentari Legum et Curia Angliae, or Commentaries on the Laws and Courts of England. That's probably easier to sign. Due to the length of his original manuscript, it was far too long for one CA, so he graciously permitted me to split it into 2 parts, and CA 200 is part 2. As usual, this is going to sound boring because I'm going to thank the same people. Elise Fleming, fantastic copy editor, and also Sue Gilbert, who is the CA art director, once again for her fabulous yet very efficient and fast work with layout and design. I'm happy to report, although I'm running a bit later than planned, and this is because the author had some work travel, that CA 200 is now with Joyce, it is the publisher, so with any luck, by the end of the month or very early in August at the latest, it will be posted out to everyone. So it's only a little bit behind, but it is done and it is with the publisher. My publishable summary is, current issue is 2023, I'm sorry, I have a typo in my report. It should say quarter 2, CA 200, Commentaries on the Laws and Courts of England, part 2. Part 2 is a continuation of Complete Anachronist 199, and it provides commentaries on heraldic law. Oh, I can start my video. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, hopefully you can see me and no, this is not my house. This is a background. Where was it? Part 2, a continuation of Complete Anachronist 199, provides commentaries on heraldic law, due process, the laws of war, and the development of international law, the English Constitution in the Tudor period, and medieval and Renaissance laws that still affect people today. Included is a glossary of legal terms that originated in the Middle Ages, along with details on rank and address in Tudor England. It's been written by a 21st century lawyer. This complete anachronist allows anyone with an interest in law and or history to learn about 16th century and pre-16th century English law and the real world use of rank and titles during that time period. So as I said, that is with the publisher. So hopefully anybody attending who subscribes, and I do hope you subscribe to CA, you should be getting it within a couple of weeks. In terms of the next complete anachronist, I'm not entirely sure at this moment what it's going to be, but I have a feeling it's probably going to be on excavating. There's one that the author is dealing with the peer reviews and is finalizing it right now. It's on it was on a period, SCA period, Icelandic excavation, and on recreating the finds found there, including clothing that were found there. And the second one is on Viking arms and armor. So those two, one of those two is probably going to be CA 201, but I'm not entirely sure at the moment. But we'll see whichever one is finished first. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And your report by consensus is also gratefully accepted. At this time, I recognize John. John, you're on mute.
Thank you, Mark. Ellen, I have a question for Ellen. So Ellen, we have some boxes of early CAs. They're currently in a lot of other stuff, currently at the office in San Jose. When we get them sorted, I'm gonna have some questions about if they're early enough, which ones we still have rights to use. Because my understanding is some have been pulled, some of the earlier ones were pulled because of, clashes with fish and wildlife laws. I think there's one that had that issue.
That I don't know. That's before my time, I honestly.
Okay, well then that's so when we get the list of those.
Oh, one was pulled for basically censorship. I remember, we probably all remember that one if we've been in the SCA long enough.
Well, we're gonna and then decide what to do with these very nice things. These are duplicates from the archives. So I'm just gonna let you know, probably that when we get that done, I will send you the list. And then we'll see what we can do with them next, because I think they are special enough we can do something with.
You have to do some research and look at the things with copyright issues. So just let me have to see what's going on with them. But yes, thank you very much. I didn't realize.
And my understanding is that these are not reprints. These are probably the original print.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Mark.
We'll move on to item 4, Society Chronicler, Crystal or Louise, if she is not here.
It's me again. Hello. And yeah, just as an update, kind of following up on what John just said, we do have 4 boxes that came straight from the archives when we, Travis and the Intrepid team and Kaid and John and everyone cleaned out the archives. We have 4 boxes in the corporate office of original complete anachronists, tournaments illuminated, and other really interesting artifacts. Obviously, some of them are so valuable we want to keep them, but some of them I think we might be able to make them available to the populace. So if you're interested in possibly owning some very original artifacts, who knows? They might be coming out. So here is the Society Chronicler report presented by Crystal Smith, known in society as Mistress Cecilia Blythe, OP. No board actions, interpretations, or policies. Commendations to almost all Kingdom Chroniclers being on time with their newsletter submissions, and to Countess Honor for always being there. General status report, you'll love to hear it. Everything is going well. Waiting for Black Box nominations now. Publishable summary. Everything is going well. Waiting for Black Box nominations for this AS year. Hope to see all kingdoms participate this year. And short and sweet, that is the chronicler report.
Thank you. And the chronicler's report is accepted. The Society Archivist, Travis.
I just figured I'd let Luis do it, but I'll give that report here for you. Thank you so much for the time of the board of directors and the officers there as well. No requested board actions, no policy interpretations, no new policies on the behalf of the archives. For commendations, the Office of the Archivist wishes to give commendations to David K. Bodman, Daoud Al-Bamadi, who was the Deputy of Digital Formats and has continued to preserve the digitized newsletters and documents being sent to the archive. Just as mentioned before, if the chroniclers out there haven't been thanked enough, thank you so much for those who continue to send digital copies to the archive so that we can preserve the fascinating history of the SCA and continue to help share it in the distant future. Someday a distant archivist will be grateful that you submitted, because looking back, we're missing a lot of things in the past that someone didn't send to us, and it's always disappointing to say, I'm really sorry, I can't find volume 2, issue 6. And so we really want to be able to share that with people in the future. The archives are continuing to settle in here in Utah, and we've been able to start taking research requests again. Additionally, we are going to be building finding guides so that if you have a question about what is in the archive, that will be published so you can look that up yourself, and then I can find it and send you the digital copies of those things as necessary should it be needed. Additionally, once again, if you are sending digital copies of your newsletters to the archives, please send it to digital-archivist@sca.org, where we can continue to keep those there. Publishable comment, the Office of the Archivist continues to work on setting the archive into its new home. Physical copies of newsletters have already begun arriving on time, and digital copies have also made their way to the archives. We are available for consultation, and we're beginning to process the collections to make it even more researcher friendly. Thank you once again for letting us share this, and I turn the time back over to whoever needs the time from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, and your report is also accepted. And I believe that concludes item C. Moving on to item D, the Society Treasurer, Carolyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the report of the Office of the Treasurer for the July board meeting. Requested board actions. We do need to make some adjustments to the budget as originally approved in January of 2023. And I was just wondering if you want to go through these individually or as a group.
I will turn that question to the other directors and see if they have a preference. Why don't we start with going through them as a collectively then, and as needed, we may break them out individually.
Okay. We need to increase the general legal expenses budget by $30,000 to cover our deductible in the Clark lawsuit, plus an additional $5,000 for the corporate document review that was mentioned by John during his report. That's going to be the largest increase. We already had $20,000 budgeted for that amount, and we may not use all of this increase, but I wanted to get it in there. We also need to increase the IT budget for $2,500 to purchase additional email licenses so that Sam can move all the deputy positions into sca.org email addresses. Some of those people are using Outlook or Gmail addresses, and we would like to bring them under the corporate umbrella. And also for an SMTP service and additional equipment, you have more information on those from Sam. And also increase the office rental budget by $300 per month effective October 1st, which reflects an increase in our annual rent, or our monthly rent actually. and just $1,000 for general licensing renewals.
Unless I missed my guess, that is 39,400 and change all in.
Roughly, yes.
Okay. Directors, there is a request from the treasurer to increase the budget in the manners noted. Is there any discussion on this request? Director Regner?
No discussion, just ready to make a motion if needed, since most of those expenses were, well, most of them anyways, were at my request.
Understood. It appears that there is no other discussion that would prevent us from moving to a motion, and therefore, Director Regner, if you are minded to do so, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the budget alterations as presented by the corporate treasurer, effective immediately.
Director Shepherd, is that a second? It is. There is a motion on the floor with a second from Director Shepherd. Is there any further discussion of this item? There being none, we will move to voting. All those directors in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? And noting no abstentions, the motion carries. Please continue, Carolyn.
Under new policies, I do not have any new policy interpretations for this quarter. However, I do think we need to rethink our policy on the use of credit cards at the kingdom level, because more and more venues and vendors are going to the point where they will no longer accept paper checks, which is what we have always required the groups to use. So be prepared for that to come up probably in a later meeting. Commendations, I would like to thank Sam Davis and Marla Lesson for updating the SCA.org website to include all of the Form 990s for our state subsidiaries, which I realize we're missing and always had been missing. We also did some cleanup in this area of the documents page, as I really didn't think we needed to keep 20-year-old tax returns on the site. So we now have 7 years worth of tax returns. And if anybody would like to see the older versions, we do have those available on request. Also, a huge thank you to Mizelle Atia for putting together a consolidated spreadsheet that shows what the SCA has made as a whole, including Canada and all the state subsidiaries. We haven't had this information in a single report, and I plan to have that prepared annually. It was available in individual reports, but not as a whole, and I think we really need to have that full version. General status report. There is an update for the investment account, which is included in my report. Overall, things are fairly stable, which is a vast improvement over last year, where we suffered quite a large loss in the value of our investment account. It fortunately has not recovered to where it was in January of 2021 due to the large drop in the stock market during 2021 and I think that was the first part of 2022. The Form 990s have been posted to the SCA.org website under the treasurer's documents. This now includes all the 17 state subsidiaries and also the main SCA organization, which consolidates the corporate office and the states that are not separate subsidiaries. For those of you who are curious, the separate subsidiaries include the income and expenses of Gulf Wars, Illinois, Massachusetts, Maryland, Maine, Michigan, Mississippi, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Pensacola, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Wisconsin, and West Virginia. And as I said earlier, that is 7 years worth of all of those returns, although I did notice a couple of them are missing. And I don't know if I received copies of those from our CPA firm or not. I'll have to double check that. I would like to point out, in light of the recent petitions going around about hiring more staff and how to pay for it, that we really can't make decisions like that based on the Form 990s that you see on the tax return. Tax returns, by their very nature, are a snapshot of our financial picture at a particular point in time, and that point in time is December 31st of each year. If I had to pick a date that would show us in our rosiest light, that would probably be the date, because we do not have any large deposits outstanding with upcoming wars or fairly large events that are happening, and all of the money from those large events is sitting in the kingdom coffers. And as a result, that's probably when we are most flush at any particular time in the year. Also, the tax return that you see under our main federal ID number, which is just labeled as SCA Inc., is not just the corporate office by itself, but it consolidates the corporate office with every other SCA group that is not part of one of those separate subsidiary returns that I just mentioned. So it covers, I don't know how many hundreds of groups. It's not just the corporate office. The vast majority of that money is sitting in the kingdom accounts and in the local group accounts. And while it's technically all ours, the only time I can think of that we actually asked the kingdoms to contribute to the operations of the SCA was when we needed to pay off a legal settlement years ago. The corporation and the board and its officers do not mandate what the kingdoms do with their money. So most of it is sitting in checking accounts, and a small amount is in savings accounts. So the dollar amount's a little deceiving since it's consolidating all of these hundreds of groups, and most of those accounts are under $10,000. So the money that we are earning on all of those funds, and I know it's in the millions of dollars, is actually quite small, because most of those balances are very, very tiny, and it just isn't practical for the groups themselves to have more than a checking account. We are doing a test run of the new online registration system, which John had mentioned earlier. And we are doing that with the Kingdom of Atlantia. So if you go and you look at that event registration link on sca.org, you can register for those Atlantia groups if you are attending them. There is also a test link, which I believe is still live and active, if you'd just like to see how it operates. There are requirements for the kingdoms to actually access that system once we go live on that, and we hope to go live on that by the end of the year. We have dubbed the new system SCORES for the SCA online registration and events system. Regarding Canada, I've been in touch with our attorneys in Canada about getting them additional information, and to that end, Sam did send up a Canadian Kingdom email group for me so that I could communicate with the exchequers and seneschals in charge of those groups. And I have another meeting with the lawyers this coming week about what we're going to do with Canada, and either getting ourselves properly registered with the Canadian Revenue Agency or where we want to go on that. And I will keep the board informed as much as possible. As Louise mentioned, we did convert our QuickBooks from an old desktop version to the online version, and that created quite a few bookkeeping issues for us. Some of them were just things getting booked into different accounts than they had traditionally been to. The June report, which is not part of my report, did have a very large expense item, which I have looked into, and it's not an actual expense. It was some weird anomaly created by QuickBooks, and I'll explain that to you in a update after the meeting. However, I think at this point, the books are in fact correct. Unfortunately, that does mean that we are running exactly almost on our budget with a small statistical difference, and that means our current loss is around $63,000 for the first 5 months of the year. That's just for the corporate office. We're also, we have finally been in touch with the auditors about the annual audit. And in the meantime, the consolidation of the kingdom reports is underway, which Bonnie will probably discuss as part of her report. Mazel has mentioned she's seen a lot of errors in this year's reports. She hasn't elaborated on what those errors are, but my thinking is that We had a lot of exchequer changeover during the last 2 years when activity was at a minimum. And they may be now kind of surprised on trying to get their books in line when they actually have a lot more activity to account for. But we're trying to figure out where those errors are coming from. And Bonnie, I know, is working with a lot of local groups to address those. Publishable summary, the continuing migration of the membership system and corporate accounting has resulted in unusual delays regarding our bookkeeping systems. It also seems to have resulted in a larger amount of errors in the corporate books in the most recent months, which I'm still working on with the office and our bookkeeper. Our new event registration system Scores is in its test phase and seems to be easy to use from the user end. If things go well, we'll be rolling that out to the other kingdoms later this year. And much like the corporation, a return to normal activity level seems to be generating book errors at the local level. So the consolidated report may take a little longer to get finalized while Moselle works with the kingdoms to fix those errors. Also, we'll be working with the auditors on those. We are still waiting to hear from the corporate office auditors regarding the audit for the 2022 financial reporting. They have emailed me once, but we're just asking a general question. Travel, I have none for official business. I'll be house sitting in Belgium during the first 3 weeks of August, and we'll have regular access online, and I will be attending Great Western War, but I will not be attending Penzic. And that concludes my report to the board.
Thank you, Carolyn. Your report is also gratefully accepted, and we will proceed to the next on the list. And Caroline, I think I'm correct in saying that you have covered the items through number 7, or excuse me, through number 6 on the agenda as part of your report.
I believe I did. If you'd like me to go into more detail, I do have those pulled up on my screen.
No, I'm fine. We, by consensus, we will accept them in the aggregate and move on to item 7, which is the Society Exchequer. Bonnie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to go too fast because I saw our interpreters were asking us to slow down just a little bit. This report does contain activity from the second quarter of 2023. I do have some requested board actions. One is to approve the Kingdom of the Middle's financial policy. Do you want to take them one at a time like we've done in the past, or?
Mark, you're muted.
Yes, we would prefer to take this one at a time. Thank you. For me, while I find the file, here it is. Thank you. Is there any summary statements or what have you that you want to make this the financial policy changes for the mid-round bonding before we get into it?
The documents, the markup and clean copy should have been presented to you already.
Yep, we have them. In that case, I will, there's a request from the Society Exchequer to accept the financial policy of the mid-realm as presented. I will open the floor for discussion of this item. Director Bainter.
I'm not finding a clean copy of the mid-realm. Am I missing it?
I see the markup myself. I don't see the clean one.
Louise, did I send you the clean, or did I miss it?
I am having a look, 1 sec.
If I missed it, we can just put this off on August meeting if that's okay.
Director Boehner, you're still recognized, your hand's still up, or?
No, I raised it again when she asked that
Thank you. Please,
question.
please proceed.
I would recommend that we return this to make sure we have a clean copy and that we can confirm the red line generates the clean copy, because I had concerns with this at the last meeting and I still have in this meeting.
Understood. Bonnie, the directions on that particular thing clear for what we would need to do to get this over the finish line?
Yes, sir. And we'll get this done and have it for August. My next item is to approve the financial policy for Aidenvelt's large event, but with the discussions that we had yesterday, since we were discussing a guideline or a booklet or whatever we want to call it, directions for the groups to have these large awards, I would suggest we also put this on hold until that is finished. I'm open to y'all's thoughts.
Director Crockmull?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an additional concern. In going through the markup document, it's hard to tell if the commentary that is notated has been addressed. It's just unclear if the suggestions for editing have all been made. It's just hard to tell with the format that it's in. Are you able to, tell me a little bit more if those comments?
I know there was a comment by Carolyn who was supposed to thank someone that made a donation, and Mindy did add an item in that section. That was one I remember off the top of my head. She had, I think that the event exchequer was to take care of that, or the Kingdom exchequer was to take care of that.
Okay, thank you.
That's just one I remember off of my head. But I thought we had addressed every one of those items that Carolyn had asked questions about.
Yeah, the comments look like they're still outstanding. I don't know if there's a way to make sure that each one looks like it's resolved so that we can know by just looking at it.
I thought we had put that in a different color when we corrected it.
Okay. Thank you. I will yield.
The floor is still open for questions, comments, or discussion of this request to the directors and officers for that matter. Bonnie, on page 6 of that document, it appears that the color for comments that have been addressed is a light purple. There's a green comment on that page. Would that be an indication that this comment is not resolved, or
Let
no?
me run a look at it. You said page 6?
Yes, ma'am.
Just 1 second. I'm not seeing a green comment on page 6. So wait a minute. I'm showing that it go to resolve comment. I think this is the one we were talking about.
This might be a thing for me. It looks a little different on an iPad.
Okay.
For reference, this is item 6, definition of a large event. Any comment appears to be on both A and B.
And I see, what I see is they're both resolved.
Okay. Thank you.
It's two comments from Carolyn, and Mindy answered both of them.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, comments, discussion from the officers and directors? All right. Are there directors who are Pardon me, Louise, please continue.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I would be happy to have a special meeting. We should probably sit down because I've noticed that this has been a continuing issue with us going over the financial policies, the way that we handle the edits versus clean copy. It seems to kind of add to confusion rather than make it clear. So if there's a different way that we can handle that, coming at this from a copy editor perspective, I think that would probably streamline things both from the financial folks and for the board who actually needs to look at the things that have been changed and approve them. So if we would be amenable to possibly changing the way that we look at those reports, that's something I would be happy to kind of spearhead from editor land.
Noted, and by consensus, we will accept that suggestion. I am noting an action item to look further into that. For you, I'm going to put a date up for that for the August meeting, if that's acceptable, Louise.
And Mr. Chair, my question on this, the large event policy for financial policy, you know, like I said, I know we discussed other guidelines for large policies and defining the large policy. Do we want to handle that before we approve this policy was my question.
Got it. I will open that to the directors. Do we have feelings on that, Pug?
I don't think it's necessary because that was discussion and planning session, and we don't know when the full implementation of that would be. But I think they need to have this in place before the event and expenses start going in and out.
Noted. Other questions, comments, discussion from the officers and directors? Bonnie, in the context of what Pug just said, do you have any reservation with approving this as presented, and with the understanding that we would review it as part of our larger look at large event policies?
Yes, sir. That's perfectly fine. I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity, if we needed to hold it, that we could do so.
Thank you. In that case, the floor is open to any director who is minded to make a motion at this time. Director Bainter.
I move that we accept the Ottenvelt large event financial policy as presented.
A motion by Director Bainter. Director Fisher, is that a second?
Correct.
Okay. There's a motion by Director Boehner and a second from Director Fisher. During the discussion on this motion, there being none, we will now vote. All directors in favor of accepting the Ottenvelt large event policy as presented, please signify by raising your hand. Noted. All those opposed? And without abstention, this motion passes. Leslie, you have what you need? Okay, thank you. What's next, Bonnie?
Okay, we want to, I'm asking that you uphold the PayPal variance due to the length of the name. Just so you have a little background, it's in variances granted. The East and Anstiora, because they used Society for Creative Anachronism, Kingdom of, in the name of their PayPal account. PayPal has limited how many letters you can use, and it kind of locked down their accounts for a little bit. They've changed the name. East is cleared up. The Anstiora is still working through theirs. And it's just a procedure that we did instead of invoicing the attendee, that we asked the attendee to send money. So we just changed a little bit how we did it. It doesn't affect any money or any changes in what we pay PayPal to use that service.
Okay, Director Fisher.
Bonnie, did you say that the East had resolved it, or that they still
Yes,
require?
ma'am. They had told me that they had resolved it. They were able to change the name to SCA Inc. Kingdom of the East, and it was okay. And I know Glen Auburn had that same trouble. They reduced the name and there we're fine. The last one that's outstanding is Anstiora that's still having an issue.
Okay, so you're just seeking approval or for us to uphold a single variance for.
Yes, ma'am. At this writing, that these other kingdoms were having an issue, but all is cleared up except for Anstiora.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify for motion purposes.
Yes, ma'am.
Bonnie, for this, for the variance as stated, does this have any practical effect with respect to how the monies are collected or fees or what have you?
No, sir. None whatsoever. Instead of PayPal sending you an invoice, they just send you a request to send money. So there's no change on the fees or anything.
Okay, thank you. Other discussion, questions on this request from the Society Exchequer? Okay. Are there any are there any directors who would offer a motion on this request? Director Fisher?
Mr. Chairman, I move we uphold the variance granted to the Kingdom of Anstiora by the Society Exchequer to allow that kingdom to use the quote request money feature end quote instead of invoicing attendees due to issues with PayPal.
The motion from Director Fisher, Director Capps, is that a second? And it is. There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? There being none, we will vote. All directors in favor of accepting the variance request as presented. All those opposed? And there being no abstention, that motion carries.
Thank you. Have no policy interpretations, a new policy. The SCA registration system scores is currently being tested in Atlantia. I know you've heard this before. After we're satisfied with the testing, we're going to slowly roll out to the other kingdoms. Our goal is to have it rolled out completely by the end of the year. People need to understand, or groups and kingdoms need to understand, their reporting must be up to date to be able to use scores. That means if you have NMR that is late, you have background checks, invoices that are outstanding, your quarterly reports, if they are not in, you will not be using scores. So there's no difference between PayPal. So just want to emphasize that. Commendations, want to thank Robin Leglow. She served Atlantia probably 5 or 6 years as Kingdom Exchequer. She's off on a worldwide tour or a USA tour right now, and we thank her for her service. She's been wonderful to work with. Also want to thank Mizelle and Kenda for all their work on the new score system. Mizelle's been doing presentations. She's actually on this call. If people have questions, please write in. We can get those questions answered. She's been hosting how scores works and how to use it. We will not be needing Kingdom deputies, so we can use those volunteers elsewhere. So just wanted to thank both of them. Also wanted to thank Sam. He's helped us eliminate an old email list that was a pain and undependable to a streamlined email system where I can type in one email, or Carolyn or whomever, type in one email and it sends out the emails to all the Kingdom Exchequers. So Sam, thank you plenty for enabling us to do that. And I always want to thank everybody, the local exchequers, the Kingdom's exchequers, for their never-ending service. It seems like they never hear it enough. And, you know, I like us to say it. So, you know, to thank everyone, because we would not do this without them. We need them to play this game. We've already discussed the variance. We can skip that. General status, testing has begun on the new SCA online registration and event system, or SCORES. Currently, there are 2 events. Well, there's probably more now, but there were 2 events at this writing that were in testing. We have begun using the new Mass Kingdom email list. publishable summary scores is progressing. Reminders have been sent to kingdoms about sending funds and keep their prepaid Herald accounts in the black. I'm hoping one of our heralds will tell us more about that. That we have several kingdoms that have not sent kept their prepaid balance up. And so we'll be reaching out to them to get those prepaid balances up. I did attend Gulf Wars. We were able to host a little exchequer meet and greet, and it was really great for me to be able to meet some of the kingdom exchequers and local exchequers that have been serving for the last crazy 3 years that I've never actually met in person. So thank you for that. And I have no more travel currently scheduled. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Bonnie, and your report and your work on various issues gratefully accepted by consensus. I believe that will bring us to item E, the Society Herald. Jennifer.
Good afternoon, everybody. My board report is a little long, as sometimes happens, so I apologize in advance. I will try to speak slowly, but I tend to get wrapped up in myself and go fast. Under requested board items, I have two major items. The first one is to approve a change to SENA, our standards for evaluation of names of armory, to update section NPN 3D, which is the standards for affiliation conflict, to exempt household names based on ships' names from the standards for affiliation conflict when they use a branch name. This is a period practice thing again. All of our rules are aimed at reflecting period practice.
Director Banker.
I move that we accept the changes as requested by Laurel with regards to SENA.
Director Shepherd is the second. Yes, it is. There was a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? There being none, we will move to the voting. All directors in favor of accepting the motion as presented, please signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? And this motion passes. Jennifer, please continue.
Thank you. The second section is, or the second approval is following changes to the admin handbook. I am in the middle of redoing the majority of it, and this is the first chunk of that. The next chunk will be my next quarterly report. We're updating section 3A10 to clarify the amount of change required between a person's legal name and their SCA name. Like if your legal name is John Smith, you can be John D. Smith in the SCA, but you can't be John Smith in the SCA. So we're clarifying what is the minimal amount of change that we require. We are replacing wording throughout that referred to a physical legal signature or facsimile thereof to be a physical legal signature or e-signature. This brings us up to the precedent that we currently allow electronic signatures. We don't require actual physical paper on anything at this point anymore. I haven't for many years, but this sort of brings it all up to date across the entire section of our admin handbook. And the third bit that we're changing is the section on processing of submissions. We are again updating this section to match current practice with how we handle submission forms, documentation, heraldic wills, fees, and the appeals process.
Director Bainter.
I move that we uphold or approve the changes to the administrative handbook as presented by Laurel.
Is there a second? Director Krochmal, I assume that's a second. Thank you. The motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? Director Fisher.
I just have a question in that you mentioned that this is part one of some changes. Does it make sense to hold off until the entire handbook is complete rather than approving changes piecemeal so that we're approving a full complete document?
I would in this case prefer not, because it'll be another 3 months for the next set comes. We are constantly updating all of our documents all of the time. And we've already updated a number of sections of the admin handbook earlier this year. We will continue to update it. We don't do one big massive chunk and then never
fair
touch
enough.
it again.
Fair enough. I just wanted to see clarification if it
Yeah.
was an end date to the process, but clearly it's an ongoing organic.
Yes, always.
document. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Director Regner, you had your hand up. Do you wish to be recognized at this time?
No, thank you. I was just gleeful to vote.
Understood. Is there any further discussion on this motion? There being none, we will vote. All directors in favor of accepting the motion as presented, please raise your hands. Any opposed? And this motion passes. Please continue, Jennifer.
Thank you. In the policy sections, or excuse me, the policy interpretations, this has in the past not been required board approval, but just acknowledgement. This is updating a bunch of appendices across all of my stuff. We've included, we've updated Appendix A, which is patterns of documentation for name for languages, to include patterns for Japanese names. We've updated Appendix about the regional naming groups to add naming groups for Turkish and Turkic to allow names from East Slavic and Turkish regional naming groups to be mixed. We've updated the appendix about branch names to reference the cover letters, which explains the requirements for hamlets. Speaking of, we were just discussing this earlier. We've updated the appendix household names with additional designators. That's the bit that goes in front for different types of household names. We have updated some elements that are a step from core practice. This is our armory rules to remove the Mitsutomo, because it's a Japanese heraldic charge, which we don't consider a step from core practice. It is part of our core practice. And we've updated an appendix about conflict checking armory with notes about how to handle hummingbirds, trilliums, and roses. In our changes to our glossary of terms, we've updated the table of reserve regalia with a note that clarifies that the items that we list as reserve regalia are also protected as badges in addition to regalia. We updated some more items in the conventional proper colorings and the default postures tables. And then we've updated one of our appendices about name sources to be used with caution to include some more articles that are useful, but only if you know what you're doing going into them. And that's all the policy interpretations I've done this quarter. Moving on to commendations. This quarter, I've had a principal herald changeover in the Middle Kingdom. Alzbeta Michalik stepped down after a successful tenure as Dragon Principal Herald. I think this is the last of my COVID Principal Heralds. I may have one or two still left in office. Her successor is Gilbert de la Brassure, who's coming to the office with plenty of energy and ideas, which is fantastic to see. I want to thank them both for their service. I wanted to thank the staff of the Known World Heraldic and Scribal Symposium. Beatrice Dominici della Campagna and Margaret Melise de Kirkenthal, along with the rest of their staff, did a fantastic job in our first in-person Known World since 2019, which was, yay, a lot of fun. I've already thanked them in person, but I wanted to put it in writing in this meeting as well. This is a lot of work, especially as we haven't had one in 4 years, and they did an outstanding job. For a general status report, all of our kingdoms should now have the new 4.0 submissions forms up and running. As a reminder, we will not be accepting the older 3.0 forms after the end of the year, with an exception for forms that are being used at Penzix Herald Point. publishable summary. Gnome World 2023, as I mentioned, just finished. Many thanks to the Barony of Care and Mar and the Kingdom of North Shield for hosting us. They were fantastic hosts. We had over 40 hours of heraldic and scribal classes, which was fantastic, but also great was being able to see each other in person, face to face once again. We're already looking forward to next year's Gnome World Heraldic and Scribal Symposium, but bids are still open on that, so I don't know yet where it's going to be. We do still plan to have our next virtual Gnome World in January, so stay tuned for more information on that. Bonnie had a question about the finances. We do still have outstanding 3 kingdoms that in our prepay that need to get money, but only one that I have an issue with, and I will get with you, Bonnie, about that separately. And I believe that's it.
Thank you very much. And by consensus, your report is also gratefully accepted. Item F, the Society Marshal, Ray.
Sorry, I'm trying to find all the buttons where they went. Hello, Chairman. Let me present my report. Requested board actions, none. Policy interpretations, none. New policies, none. Commendations. I'd like to thank all the field marshals who gave their time during these hot months to provide a safe environment for all fighters. I would also like to thank my special projects deputy for all her hard work she puts in. And I would also like to add in there all my society deputies as well, and thank them for all the service and time that they've given over my tenure. Now that I believe this is the last video piece we'll do, so I'd like to thank them. The DSM for combat archery offers thanks to Captain Nora and Scarpa for their efforts in improving the mid-realm martial process. The DSM for rapier combat sends kudos again to the Kingdom Rapier Marshal of Kaid, Baroness Allison Gray of Cranlee, who has agreed to give virtual classes on the adverse event form they developed with an eye to adopting for society use and taking on the role of the experiments deputy. His wife, Her Excellency Ellen, for apparently not killing everyone at Gulf Wars. I definitely understand that with my wife sometimes. And well done for Master Nicolo Romero and his Gulf Wars marshaling staff, who ran a good war with little lead time. Let's see, my publishable summary. Injuries have picked back up on both the heavy and the rapier fighting fields. If you have calibration issues, please communicate with your opponent and vice versa. Also with the record weather heat waves, please stay hydrated and take necessary breaks to cool down. I have no travel at this time. Looks like I won't be making it to Penzic. And that is it.
Thank you, Ray. And your report is also gratefully accepted. Item G, the Society.
Mr. Chair.
Pardon me, excuse me.
Mr. Chair,
was
could I request a brief intermission?
Oh, yes. My apologies. We will take a short recess. It is 4:35 Eastern, 1:35 Pacific, and times in between. We will reconvene at 4:40 Eastern. We will now resume at this time. Moving on to item G, Society Minister of Arts and Sciences.
Good afternoon. Greetings unto the Board of Directors. Here is my second quarter report for 2023 for the Minister of Arts and Sciences. Going directly into commendations, I offer commendations to the following individual artisans and in some cases groups. I commend all Kingdom and local arts and sciences officers for their good work in bringing in-person arts and sciences activities to an active level. I am very proud of everyone who facilitates, plans, and participates in these activities. Congratulations to the following people in the Kingdom of Ethelmark. Master Robert of Furness for being chosen as Their Majesty's Brewing Champion. Avitoria Vidua for winning Queen's Prize Tourney. And Baron Snorri Ski Bjornsson and Oddkatla Jonsdottir, who tied for winner of Populous Choice at Queen's Prize Tourney. Commendations to Mano de Oro and Althea of Williams Keep in the Kingdom of Antir for their longtime contribution to the ANS community in their principality. Commendations to the following people in the Kingdom of Anstiora. Elisabetta di Picardia for her first time as Premier Bard. To Lord Rorik Rainerson, who is the new Premier Bard of Anstiora. To Sima bint Yosef for their time as Anstioran Middle Eastern Dance Champion. To Adriana Laurel, who is the new for her second time Middle Eastern Dance Champion. And to Maestra Messina di Ferrara, who received a perfect score for her silk project at Gulf Wars. Congratulations to the winners of Artemisia's Kingdom Arts and Sciences competition. Champion, Amanda Dispenser. Reserve Champion, Malkin Allardson. Novice Champion, Stefan Sorensen. And Teen Champion, Kilian von Wolfganskauser. Commendations to the following Artemisians for their work in the Kingdom Arts and Sciences competition. Vidoma Marie Nider for helping arrange the Kingdom Arts and Sciences competition and Collegium event. Ayangus Ofer for printing forms for the competition. Sarah von Feuerbach for coordinating the Collegium and preparing the convocation. And Magdalena Lucia Ramberti for helping man the competition table. Commendations to Mistress Magdalene Ventrosa for her extended service as Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences in Adenveld. Congratulations to the following people in the Kingdom of Atlantia. Cultura Atlantia winner Helena Cassandrea. Tempori Atlantia winner Porfina Holodaughter. Poeta Atlantia winner Lady Elizabeth Spalding. And Kingdom Arts and Sciences Champion Competition winner Lady Mariana Ruiz de Medina. Congratulations to Lady Tova of Montagnard, who won Avacal's Kingdom Arts and Sciences. Commendations to Mistress Wilhelmina de Gotha for her time serving as Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences in the Kingdom of Caid. Commendations to Guy de Diana of Insulae Draconis in the Kingdom of Drachenwald for putting together an excellent brewer's almanac. To Giardus Gerharddaughter, an herbalist, for putting together a recent newsletter. And to Keldar von Skeltia, who made an amazing scroll in the form of a beautifully etched sword for a recent knighting. Commendations to Lady Isabella Fiorgoso, who was an excellent autocrat for Glenaubyn's Athenaeum. Also to Maestra Gita Magdalena Alberti, who, although she is now out of kingdom, worked behind the scenes to help bring Athenaeum back to life. Commendations to the following people in the Kingdom of Meridies. Corman Gialfareg, winner of the 5-year brewing challenge at Iris Fair. Mistress Darabelle for writing a FAQ on entering an arts and sciences fair for the Barony of Bryn Maddock. Rowaney, Elena, Nick, and Jorson for scoring a 20 at the Kingdom Arts and Sciences. Kenneth and Katerina McFarlane, who have been members of the SCA for less than a year, but have jumped in and created informal craft nights every Monday evening. Commendations to Raphael de Marisi in the Middle Kingdom for his exemplary work in historic combat studies. Commendations to the following people in the Kingdom of North Shield. Leif Ashka Smeathon, formerly from Avicall, who is a formidable tablet weaver and won the Populous Arts and Sciences competition at Golf Wars. Dame Katrinka Lavoccia, who won the triathlon at North Shield's Kingdom Arts and Sciences competition. Aine Ingen Malpatrick, who won the Open Division, and Judith of Northwood, who won the Novice Division. Congratulations to the following people in the Kingdom of the Outlands. Lancer Apollonia Zwamstricker for winning Kingdom Arts and Sciences Champion. And Cassandra Regelis' daughter for winning Queen's Prize. Commendations to Countess Rikenda, who helped greatly in the judging process for Kingdom Arts and Sciences competition. Commendations to the scribes in the Kingdom of Trimaris. They heard of a lack of original scrolls being made, and their response was quick and sure, with a huge influx of enthusiasm and industrious artists working above and beyond. There is now a scriptorium at each event, and all kinds of encouragement and teaching offered for new scribes. Commendations to the following West Kingdom people. Sybil the Disobedient for stewarding Kingdom Arts and Sciences Tournament. Michelle Lincreer and Elsie Hungroat for helping greatly with the event. And a special thank you to my husband, Lord Wang Wei-yun, for making it possible for me to travel to Drachenwald for their 30th year and coronation. Publishable summary. The Society for Creative Anachronism continues to fulfill its mission to research and recreate the arts and skills of the pre-17th century world. The second quarter has seen well-attended in-person activities, including arts and sciences classes, workshops, and several local and kingdom competitions. Some online and hybrid arts and sciences activities, including universities and classes, have continued. Kingdom and local officers successfully continue to update the ways in which we do arts and sciences activities, including non-judged displays, working towards refreshing and reformatting traditional arts and sciences rubrics, competitions, and activities. The Society Minister for Arts and Sciences has an official Facebook presence, and this page allows members to receive information about arts and sciences activities throughout the known world and encourages them to share their own projects, promote local artisans, and connect with others who share their interests. Recently, the populace were invited to share agriculture, animal husbandry, forestry, and herbal projects. Projects ranging from Tudor gardening, beekeeping, barley from growing to brewing, Icelandic chickens and Norse chicken husbandry, growing herbs for use in feasts, medieval medicinal herb gardening, pheasants and peafowl, orchards, foraging and wild edible and medicinal herbs. Let me find my place again. Pollarding and coppicing trees, Icelandic sheep and pigs were shared. That's quite a big variety of things we don't often think about. What an active area to enjoy. Additionally, the populace was invited to share some current and recent projects. These included new brews, fabric painting, applique, pepper sauce, deer sausage, stone carving, and painted pottery. Next, we'll focus on camp improvement, general garb, and accessories projects. As Society Officer, I continue regular outreach through the Kingdom officers to help encourage and support officers from Kingdom level all the way through to branch offices. I strive to maintain an email response time to warranted officers of no more than 48 hours, except for when I'm away at in-person events during storms or holidays when response time may be longer. Travel, I'm reporting no travel expenses during this reporting period. However, I have been doing some out of kingdom travel outside of Atlantia. March, I went to Gulf Wars in the Kingdom of Glen Aubin, where we held a society or a Kingdom Ministers of Arts and Sciences meet and greet. In April, I traveled to the Kingdom of Athelmerk for their St. Clair event, where I enjoyed presenting the keynote talk. In June, I traveled to Drachenwald for their 30th year in coronation and hope to travel one more time out of Kingdom this summer. This concludes my second quarter report for 2023.
Thank you very much, Sarah. By consensus, your report is gratefully accepted.
Thank you.
Moving to item H. I believe I'm correct in saying under number 1 under item H for the Peerage Committee that no report was received in this quarter. Unless that is incorrect, we will move to item 2, the Census Committee.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Julia, is Julia on the call? She is not. Is the who's the ombudsman for the Census Committee?
I believe you may be, sir.
You are correct, sir. That did come with the lovely virtual gavel. That being the case, I will briefly present the report for the Census Committee for the second quarter, July 2023 of the Society for Creative Anachronism. In the report, there are no requested board actions, no policy interpretations, no new policies, and no new commendations. And as a general status report, they have included by attachment the first reports on qualitative data, focusing on questions about what the SCA is doing right and what we're doing wrong. They are encouraging board feedback about how to share this information with further editing and explanation or otherwise. The next and last major section will be ready for the next board meeting, presumably the October board meeting. And they thank us for our patience as they continue the analysis, and they encourage kingdoms and officers to ask for the data they need. They've shared data with LOCOC and with the DEI office and board members upon their request. Their publishable summary, excuse me. Let's repeat this. The 2020 SCA Census Committee analysis continues. We want to remind everyone that the Kingdom Seneschals or individuals authorized by the Seneschal can request data from the census by completing the online form at forms.gle/ and a URL that will be available online. Final reporting on qualitative data should be made public later this year. Sincerely, Julia Smith of the Census Committee. And by consensus, we will accept the report of the Census Committee as presented. That brings us to executive session and the items that were decided from there. Liz, I will turn that over to you.
It's actually typically Leslie who reads them.
Oh, pardon me, Leslie.
No worries, but I'm glad to have Liz do them if she would like. Okay, these are your items from your executive session held on Saturday, July 22nd, 2023. Patrick Haley, motion by Gabrielle Fisher to revoke the membership of and deny participation to Patrick Haley, effective immediately, second by Ross Rogner, opposed none, motion carried. Matthew Jones, motion by Ross Rogner to revoke the membership of and deny participation to Matthew Jones, effective immediately, second by Krista Capps, opposed none, motion carried. Patrick Lomax, motion by Gabrielle Fisher to revoke the membership of and deny participation to Patrick Lomax, effective immediately, second by Pug Bainter, opposed none, motion carried. Tyler Marshall, motion by KT Shepherd to uphold the temporary removal from participation in the Society of Tyler Marshall as issued by Gabriel and Sonia, Crown of the Kingdom of Anstiora, and their Kingdom Seneschal on May 27th, 2023, and to further direct the Society Seneschal to begin an investigation into possible sanctions up to and including revocation of membership and denial of participation, effective immediately. Second by Gabrielle Fisher, opposed none, motion carried. James McLean, motion by Ross Regner to revoke the membership of and deny participation to James McLean for a period of 4 years, effective immediately and concluding on 4 years. Okay, I think I have this date wrong. And concluding on July 22nd, 2027. Second by Krista Capps, opposed none, motion carried. David McDowell, motion by Gabrielle Fisher to revoke the membership of and deny participation to David McDowell, effective immediately. Second by Pug Bainter, opposed none, motion carried. Ryan Neld, motion by Ross Rogner to revoke the membership of and deny participation to Ryan Neld, effective immediately. Second by KT Shepherd, opposed none, motion carried. Randolfo Pozo Brewer, motion by Gabrielle Fisher to uphold the exile of Rodolfo Ponzo Brewer by Hans and Kier, Crown of the West Kingdom, on May 11th, 2023. Second by KT Shepherd, opposed none, motion carried. Motion by KT Shepherd to uphold the exile of Rodolfo Pazzo Brewer by Athos and Alienora, Crown of Antier, on May 11th, 2023. Second by Gabrielle Fisher, opposed none, motion carried. Motion by Gabrielle Fisher to direct the Society Seneschal to issue a temporary removal from participation, in the Society of Rodolfo Pazzo Brewer, and further to begin an investigation into possible sanctions up to and including revocation of membership and denial of participation, effective immediately. Second by Krista Capps. In favor, Krista Capps, Gabrielle Fisher, Jennifer Krochmal, Ross Rogner, KT Shepherd. Opposed, Pug Bainter, motion carried. Barbara Rubel, Director Pug Bainter, recused himself from discussion of or voting on this issue. Motion by Gabrielle Fisher to revoke the membership of and deny participation to Barbara Rubel, effective immediately. Second by KT Shepherd, opposed none, recused Pug Bainter, motion carried. Scott Beecher Smith, motion by Pug Bainter to revoke the membership of and deny participation to Scott Beecher Smith, effective immediately. Second by Jennifer Krochmal. Opposed, none. Motion carried. James Troop. Motion by Gabrielle Fisher to revoke the membership of and deny participation to James Troop, effective immediately. Second by Katie Shepherd. Opposed, none. Motion carried. Valerie Kelly. Motion by Jennifer Krochmal to overturn the exile of Valerie Kelly by Andreas and Callista Crown of Ethelmark on May 22nd, 2023. Second by Katie Shepherd. In favor, Krista Capps, Gabrielle Fisher, Jennifer Krochmal, Katie Shepherd. Opposed, Pug Bainter, Ross Rogner. Chair Mark Falcon exercised his option to vote and did so against the motion. Motion carried. Louise McCoy Caldwell. By consensus, the board recognizes the absolute banishment, also known as a revocation of membership and denial of participation, of Louise McCoy Caldwell by the Board of Directors for the Society for Creative Anachronism Limited. Society Seneschal State of the Known World. The report of the Society Seneschal was accepted as presented. Legal updates. The report of in-house counsel was accepted as presented. Warrant extension, Society Seneschal. Motion by Katie Shepherd to extend the warrant of Bonnie Stringer, Society Seneschal, for a period of 1 year. Second by Krista Capps.
Point of inquiry.
Pardon?
I apologize for the
In
interruption.
order.
I'm sorry, did I make a mistake?
Oh, yes.
Where?
Please, Jennifer.
It was, I believe that you had said Society Seneschal, and it should be a warrant extension for the Society Exchequer.
Exchequer.
Yes.
Oh, did I say that? I apologize.
Oh, yes, you did.
I guess Bonnie gets a new job, doesn't she? No, I apologize. That should have been a warrant extension for the Society Exchequer, which I'm not sure why I said that, because I have Exchequer on my paper. Thank you. Okay, where am I? I'm going to reread that. Motion by Katie Shepherd to extend the warrant of Bonnie Stringer, Society Exchequer, for 1 year. Second by Krista Capps. In favor, Krista Capps, Gabrielle Fisher, Jennifer Krochmal, Ross Rogner, Katie Shepherd. Opposed, Pug Bainter. Motion carried. July 23rd, 2023 subsidiaries, action by verbal consent. All actions for the subsidiaries of the Society for Creative Anachronism are accepted by consensus. Director resignation by consensus, no action was taken. Director appointment, seat B, by consensus, no action was taken. Chair assignment, by consensus, no action was taken. Vice chair assignment. Motion by Katie Shepherd to appoint Gabrielle Fisher to the position of vice chair of the Board of Directors, effective at the close of the July 23rd, 2023 meeting. Second by Jennifer Krochmal. Opposed, none. Chair Mark Falcon exercised his option to vote and did so in favor of the motion. Motion carried. Ombudsman assignments. These ombudsman assignments will become official at the close of today's meeting. Chair Mark Falcon, Ombudsman 4, President, Society Seneschal Corporate Office, Executive Assistant, Financial Officers, Financial Committee, Census Committee. Vice Chair Gabrielle Fisher, Ombudsman 4, Board Recruiting, Ethelmark, Avocal, Drakenwald, and Locock. Director Krista Capps, Ombudsman 4, Atlantia, Meridies, Middle, Eldemere. Director Pug Bainter, Ombudsman 4, DEIB, Heralds, East, Kaid, West. Director Jennifer Krockmall, Ombudsman 4, Communications Committee, Information Technology, including the Webmaster and Webmaster. Callantier, North Shield, Outlands. Director Ross Rogner, Ombudsman 4, ANS, Artemisia, Aidenveld. Publications, including Tournaments Illuminated, Complete Anachronist, and The Chronicle. Director KT Shepherd, Ombudsman 4, Peerage Committee on Tier, Anstiora, Glen Aubin, Trimaris, and the Marshal. Society Marshal-elect, motion by Krista Capps to appoint Melissa Midster to the position of Society Marshal for the standard 3-year term and subject to the standard probationary period effective August 31st, 2023. Second by Gabrielle Fisher, opposed none, motion carried. Those are your minutes from your executive session.
Thank you very much, Leslie. By consensus, the board takes note. We would also like to take a moment to congratulate our incoming Society Earl Marshal and to thank Ray for his years of service in that office and wish him well as he moves on to the next chapter and how he will serve the SCA. I believe we have hit the end of the agenda, so I am open to any meetings that any motions that directors might want to offer to adjourn the meeting. Don't everybody volunteer at once. Director Fisher.
I was going to say, let Bart have it. Mr. Chairman, I move that we close the July 23rd, 2023 Board of Directors meeting.
That's a motion by Director Fisher. Is there a second? A second by Director Regner. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Yes, I wish to belabor it as much as possible. 15 minutes of discussion.
No, don't worry. We got all kinds of stuff we're going to do in the next one. There being none, we will proceed to voting. All directors in favor of adjourning the meeting as presented signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? And that motion passes and our meeting is adjourned. We will take a short 6-minute recess, as it turns out, considering it's 9 after the hour, and we'll proceed to Q&A. Well, let me back that up. Do we need longer than 6 minutes? We need 10? 6 minutes it is. We will resume at 5:15 p.m. Eastern, 2:15 Pacific, and times in between. I believe all the directors are back. I see Leslie, I see Liz. John, are you available?
John's on his way.
Okay. And there he is. Thank you, John.
Thank you for your patience.
Not a problem. We will now move to the Q&A portion of the meeting.
I think there was at least one early on that got answered directly, and the answer doesn't show up in the Q&A, so I think we may want to touch on it.
Bridget, I think you were, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ross.
Would we like to invite Bridget to
I was just getting ready to do that.
All right, thank you very much.
Good morning, Bridget. I would invite you to continue the work you've already been doing and doing for us on our behalf in handling the questions from the audience, and we are prepared to answer them as they come up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So the question that I thought would best answered live was that there are two questions relating to this matter, but I'll just summarize them as one. Have the directors reviewed the corporate rules review write-up by David Biggs? At a previous meeting, multiple directors said that they would by this meeting.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to take that one. Yes, we have hired an independent third-party law firm to review our governing documents and policies. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, there was another question about Canadian revenue, but I believe that this was handled by the corporate treasurer during her report, and all other matters have been answered at this time, unless anybody else has any. Oh, wait a second, we just got a question in the chat. There was a question about the scope of the third-party legal review.
Ross?
Yeah, the scope of that is our governing documents and policies.
John, is there any color you want to add to that?
But just briefly, as Ross says, it's all of our documents, handbooks, policies, looking at our obligations as a not-for-profit. We have hired a firm with not-for-profit, nonprofit experience, and they're reviewing a great deal of everything we have.
Another question? Oh, we got another one.
So the questions that we have had is, will this third party review any of the previous implementation or only the policy or de facto usage or only the policy as written? Or is it too early to comment at this point, given that we've not heard from the hired consultant?
It is.
Yeah,
It is too early.
This will be an ongoing process.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, there is a question regarding a sanction, but am I right in believing that we do not comment on the nature of current or previous sanctions due to legal reasons?
That is correct.
There was a question about the proposed variation for the proposed variance, apologies. I've only had one coffee. Variance relating to the use of hamlets in SCA Inc. non-affiliate countries. And the question was, in the affiliates, it has also been used as a formational status akin to incipiency. There's a question about the implications of the use of hamlets as a halfway point to dissolution. Liz, do you have enough information at this time, or is this better answered further down the path of the experiment?
I can address what was in the mid-realm request. She is not looking at it as a beginning point because the mid-realm already has pretty clear procedures for how they form incipient groups, which is the term usually used around here. She is looking at it as a group that has dissolved, that has decided they need to dissolve, to have some vestige of their identity continue, with the hope that they will, given a little bit of time, be able to recover from burnout or recruit a few more people who might make it a viable group again. That is what she has stated to me.
Thank you. And the last question was, do we have an anticipated timeline for the review of the governing documents?
John?
we've turned over a great amount of material. We don't know until they've looked at all of that, and then a great deal of material, and we won't know till they get back to us. The $5,000 budgeted in Carolyn's report was for that issue. That's where we're at right now.
Mr. Chair, we have no further questions at this time.
All right. That being the case, well, is there a late one coming through?
Hang on.
While that's going on, I'll recognize Director Fisher.
I just want to encourage folks that they can also always reach out to us via comments. We do read all the comments that come in, and we do our best to address any questions or concerns as they come in. There'll also be an opportunity for a meet and greet at Penzic for anybody who's attending. I believe it's the Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. It'll be in one of the ANS tents.
Director
Yeah,
Fisher,
and just
can I ask a brief question just from regarding recruitment?
Certainly.
Of course.
Are there any barriers to nominations coming from affiliate kingdoms? Because we recognize the SCA memberships.
No, there is not. We are open to, we would love to have representation from all demographics of our membership, including our affiliates. There have been, I know, Drakenwald members on the nominee list in the past. There currently aren't any. So I misspoke earlier. There's actually 8 kingdoms that aren't represented on the nominee list. But there are no barriers other than being able to be awake at 3 o'clock in the morning like you are.
People do many things for love of the SCA. We have our question, which is, we consider that you have just considered a hamlet as a new group designation. Are there any guidelines for the creation of new group/branch designations?
Okay, I'm not entirely sure I understand when he says new group designation, a different group designation. The Mid-Realm specifically is using it for newly forming groups. As far as guidelines for forming new groups, that is a bit of an individual kingdom matter. So your best bet is to contact your kingdom seneschal and ask them about it. There is also information about that in Corpora. There's a section on how to form branches and what the requirements are. And there is a section about it in the Seneschal's Handbook. Both of those documents are available at sca.org.
Thank you, Liz. Mr. Chair, I think at this point, going once, going twice, we have no further questions.
In that case, we thank all of you for attending this meeting of the Board of Directors and applaud your interest in understanding the organization and function of the SCA at this level and how that works. To the officers and the board members and to to Louise and Leslie. I also extend my thanks for another successful board meeting, and we will now end the meeting and return you to your weekends. Thank you all very much.